The story begins with a man asking Mugan if he remembers Iran's childhood. The guy replied that his sister was smart and persistent. My father said that it was true that she grasped everything literally on the fly. The previous head of the demonic forest, Cho Penchon, added that it was all thanks to the heavenly yin. This is a feature of the body in which innate energy contributes to rapid progress in the study of martial arts. However, its disadvantage is that the body gradually collapses. Some warriors call it a blessing, but for them it is just a curse that has taken a loved one. The young man asked if he regretted breaking ties with his daughter. The man replied that, yes, that was his only regret. He didn't want her to spend the rest of her life outside the demon forest. It was worth taking her back then. But when the elder found out that she, fighting the disease, gave birth to a child, it was difficult for him to accept this betrayal. Suddenly, the guy announced that he, being the current head of the demonic forest, was going to make Chin Marip, the son of Iran, the next lord. Recently, a letter arrived from the province. Very soon, the young man will arrive here. This decision was made solely for the benefit of the forest. Therefore, the young man very much asks him to show leniency. The man noted to himself that this was his daughter's child, his grandson. When did he manage to grow up so much? Meanwhile, in Shanxi province, near the Huanhe River, a battle was taking place between a demonic creature and some young man. The guy managed to stop his attack with one hand, but the monster swung the other and declared that it was a swing of the paw of a 1,000-year-old dragon, after which he immediately dealt a blow which should not have left a living wound on him. But the young man had an excellent reaction, so he managed to lean back in time. The guy then noticed the hole in the rock that had formed after his attack and asked who he even was. The monster replied that the dragon was Wanhei. Our hero countered that he was trash, not a dragon. The king asked why he did not use his internal energy. You'll just have to kill him if it doesn't cheer him up. The head of the Sashan group, Chin Marip, replied that in this case he would immediately throw away his skates, and the guy would only get a slap in the cap. The creature grinned, which means he'll get a hit in the hat. His teacher is weak-minded or something. The young man retorted that there was no need to provoke him because such tricks did not work on him. After which he tied his hair in a ponytail and said that, so be it, he will now demonstrate. He learned this from his weak-minded teacher. Then he put his fists next to each other, and with one he began to make movements, as if turning a lever. Thus, the young man gradually raised his middle finger and began to laugh loudly. The otherworldly creature was completely enraged by such impudence, because he watched his actions so closely. The king shouted that he really thought that this was how he was offended. But in fact, from the outside, that's exactly what it seemed like. While he was freaking out, the young man immediately delivered a powerful blow, taking advantage of the effect of surprise. The king was shocked that it only took one blow to throw him a huge distance, so that he would be empty. Some little thing overcame him, one of the 10 best masters in the world. Suddenly, a young man appeared next to him, who began to slap him in the face and tell him to wake up. How long can you lie around like a rag? The monster was indignant that he had not slept at all. The guy said that he had been sleeping for about 30 minutes. Who is he even trying to lie to? The king could not stand it and asked to simply kill him. In order to end this, our hero said that they didn't fight him to the death anyway. He advises him to engage in energy circulation. Then he said that he was leaving this place today. If he comes here again looking for someone to mess with, then Chin will definitely finish him off. After which the young man ran up to him and once again gave him a final slap in the face. Having said at the same time what kind of teacher he is, the creature was surprised by this. If he had been in his place, he would have broken both his arms. It turns out that even in generosity, he is inferior to him. The monster believed that he had no enemies in this world except the other 9 masters. But meeting him made me think about a lot. Then he said that he, the Huanhe dragon, gave him his title as one of the 5 dragons. Our hero interrupted him and said that he would manage. Why does he need this? Let him cope somehow without him. The king objected that there was no need to refuse so easily. This is fate. He will prepare a place for him among the 5 dragons. By the way, the guy said that he was leaving Sanshon. Where then can he be found to challenge him again? The young man replied that he was not leaving for good, but only for a while. He will never find him, because he plays hide and seek well. Then he got ready to leave and said goodbye. Let him come if he still wants to die. I noted to myself that I don't have to worry about the mountain caves for a while. Now it's the demonic forest's turn. The place where my mother was born and raised. Of course, Murip is going there to become the new heir, but since he is in Sichuan province, he will be one step closer to Murim. His past must remain a secret. It happens that a robber becomes an heir. Half a month later, the men were discussing that when they saw that boy, they thought that the mistress had returned. You can tell by his eyes that his soul is as kind as hers. One of them said that the eyes are the mirror of the soul. His heart is the color of white jade. Just take his word for it. Meanwhile, the young man was sitting on the roof and thinking that his fate was interesting. He came, of course, but it's somehow unusual to be an heir. Suddenly, Son appeared and said that he had finally found him. Our hero immediately asked if he needed help. The boy said that it was better to let him come down himself. Does he really think that, sitting on the roof, he can avoid today's affairs? After which the baby could not hold on with his hands, so he fell and began to fall down. Chin sat him on his back and said that he almost had a heart attack. Why did you have to go there? Let him say that today is on schedule. The little one said that first he wanted to thank him for his efforts. First of all, he has a lecture on the history of Murim. Then training, followed by dinner with the head of the Tesson chamber. And at night, reading books about martial arts. Our hero muttered why he came here. Son replied that he was simply the only heir. That's why they called him, or he thought that they saw something else in him. Murip noted that he had heard so much about the demonic forest, but in reality it turned out that the land was empty. The boy replied that, yes, now the area seems deserted, but my mother said that there used to be a lot of people here. If he's not mistaken, it's about the bloody massacre of 8. He will have to hear about this at the lecture. Then he quickly jumped off his shoulders and reported that the heir had arrived. The man immediately said welcome. He prepared tea with sweets. The young man said that it was necessary to finish quickly. He didn't get the hang of his lectures at all. The old man replied that his mother did not like them either, but they were necessary in order to survive in Murim. When asked what he would talk about today, the man replied that it was about the warriors of the Murim Peak. Let him listen carefully. His robber skills will not defeat them. The guy replied that he believed that he would have to deal with them often, so he would remember. The 10 strongest warriors are 2 emperors, 3 kings, and 5 dragons. Besides them, there is also a holy dragon. This is the hero who saved Murim in the Great War. Due to his uniqueness, he's not included in the top 10 great masters. There is a legend, 10 best masters in the world, and a holy dragon that has surpassed the heavenly level. Is he interested in hearing about it? The young man objected that, in fact, every second person had heard about this legend. The old man added that they say that recently the place of one of the 5 dragons was taken by another warrior, unknown head of the Sanshon gang of robbers. He was given the nickname, the Faceless Mountain King. He is also called the Master with 3 arms and 6 legs. This psycho is truly elusive, faceless because no one knows for sure what he looks like, and the Mountain King because he owns all the large mountain caves. The young man immediately remembered the monster's words that he would prepare a place for him among the 5 dragons. The creature congratulates him on becoming one of the 10 best masters in the world. Our hero was taken aback by the fact that that lizard ended up giving him his place anyway. The boy said that it was necessary to be patient a little, since they had to leave. Let her sit here, and he will hide somewhere else. Let the girl under no circumstances go out until the sun rises. Suddenly there was a cry that the enemy was somewhere very close, so we needed to look for him. The kid immediately told her to get inside and as soon as possible. He himself began to run quickly in order to divert attention to himself. The mercenaries were catching up with him. One of them was good at throwing knives, so he took aim and launched the bladed weapon. The baby was unable to dodge him, so the sharp blade wounded his forearm. Some of them were very surprised, because this is a child. But the leader objected that it was not just a child, but a child of Satan who must die. The guy asked if he had forgotten the holy dragon's instructions. Children and those who do not study martial arts should not be touched. The man objected that it was this carelessness that led to the World War. Didn't they all pay the price for not uprooting the number 200 years ago? One lost his wife and daughter, another his only younger sister, and he lost his entire family at once. In order to prevent the second bloody massacre of 8 from happening, every single person from the Hidden Valley must die. Suddenly, the elder's voice was heard, saying that it was enough. He understands their feelings, but the boy is not to blame for anything. The guys asked who he even was. Is it really from the Hidden Valley? If not, then let them go where they went. This child is a child of Satan. The elder objected that he could not agree with him. As far as he knew, this place was not involved in the war against the 8. They are united only by their roots, but the first and second are completely different things. The guy said that this is the first time he has heard about this. Where is the evidence? His boss said he didn't need any proof. For him, this boy is absolutely the same demon, so his fate is sealed. The guy who was standing next to the old man suddenly rushed to the attack in order to protect the child. The young man shouted that he needed to be careful, because this was a devilish technique, which meant he was the same as their enemies. After he rushed past them, none of the guys had any weapons left. The stranger took everything. After that, he stopped and told them to all get out of here, since he wouldn't repeat it twice. The opponents realized that they could not do anything against him, so, freaking out, they began to leave. The teacher said that in his youth he once took a boy under his wing. And then it turned out that he, being in some kind of 8, started a bloody war. Then he asked if Murip would do this. The boy replied that he would look into it. The elder said that as he knows the master will soon retire, so he has one serious request to him. There are a lot of people dying in the valley right now. Let him help him make sure that they can live with the light before them. For someone who has mastered the 8 heavens technique, thanks to Heavenly Yin, this is possible. Since his inner strength is sealed due to the strong flow of energy, he will have to sweat, but he will definitely not give himself offense. Muripa replied that you can just finish off the holy dragon, right? The man replied that such revenge does not end well. How about naming the mountain settlements he will protect? In other words, a common sky. Since he too can become a target, let him always be on the alert and keep his eyes open. The young man replied that he understood everything and promised to be careful. Our hero mentally turned to him and asked for forgiveness for having become some kind of faceless mountain king and one of the 10 strongest warriors. One of the 10 best masters is the leader of a gang of robbers. Yes, these are 2 diametrically opposed groups. The first student of the teacher and the leader of the 8 who killed countless innocent people, Huan Unchen. With his destructive techniques, he provoked a bloody war of 8, taking many lives. Even now, a huge number of warriors are mercilessly killing the inhabitants of the Hidden Valley. That's why he hides his real identity and makes a fool of himself who doesn't know what Muram is. This is all happening because of that stupid dragon. Just let him catch his eye one more time. His thoughts were interrupted by the voice of the old man, who finally reached him and asked what was wrong with him, because he had turned pale. The young man replied that he was not feeling well, so it was better to finish for today. The man exclaimed that this was a wonderful coincidence, because he just had a story about a Murimts, who, despite health problems, was very active in the military field. After some time, the teacher said that since the master's basic classes were coming to an end, it was worth gradually introducing the lessons necessary for the heir. In his opinion, at the moment, when Sichuan's position is so unstable, the heir's place cannot be left empty for too long. San Hogan added, "Why not move on to the really important step right now?" Yuga-san objected that he had a different opinion on this matter. He said that Chinmurup is the heir apparent, but what matters is whether he is a blood descendant or not. Does he have the opportunity to take over the title? This is the whole problem at the moment. As they know, none of them took the young man's sudden appearance positively. It would be strange if they accepted God knows who as their heir with open arms. Let him be given the opportunity to test his abilities. Joe Penchon said that a similar point of view is valid. Let them give Marip a task that will remain a secret even from him. After some time, the man explained the whole situation to the young man and added that that was why he came to him. Our hero exclaimed, "Why say so veiledly that they don't trust him? Let him already lay out what needs to be done." The elder said that it is necessary to return the Chonha Tavern. It is located in the northwest of Sichuan province. The guy asked if I meant returning it. It was stolen or something. The man explained that she was originally controlled by the demonic forest, but was then taken away by the Cholza group. This is one of the clans of the Wicked Way. These people are extremely difficult to deal with. Murip laughed and said that it is not for nothing that they say that even if the rich go broke, they will have enough food for another 3 years. Has the demonic forest really fallen so low that it is already being robbed of all sorts of rubbish? The man shouted at him to watch his words because the Cholsa are not an easy gang. Our hero flared up and said that he was not sure that the one who had his business taken away by some gang had the right to yell at him. After which he exhaled and asked for forgiveness, since he is very sensitive to sounds. As a result, he realized that the tavern needed to be returned. The man replied that yes. For his safety, a guard will be assigned to him. Therefore, let him treat this with understanding. Our hero thought to himself, who is he even telling this to? They decided to put surveillance on his tail, not security. The man thought to himself that just look at this boorish teenager. He's absolutely no good. The young man condescendingly said that okay, he will complete this task. What time does he have for this? The elder replied that he had 5 days to do everything. He noted to himself that they would watch him sing later, but the young man suddenly declared that he did not need so much time. 2 days will be enough. The man noted to himself that if the matter had been so simple, they would have taken the tavern themselves a long time ago. The kid should understand this anyway. Murip added that, as for the security, he himself will choose who to go with. They will still be watching him. Uga-san replied that they were actually doing this primarily for his own safety. I thought to myself that he was brainy after all. Isn't the skull bothering him? The guy said that if he was finished, then let him vacate the premises. I would like to take a little nap before leaving. As he left, the man thought that this was not an easy task, but they don't need any rabble as heirs. After a short period of time, a teacher burst into our hero's bedroom. He only managed to exclaim that he was tired of them all. He immediately said that he heard that the head of Urim was here. What the man told him. Yawning, the young man replied that he had been told not to ask others for help. The man thought to himself that this old man must have entrusted the master with something difficult. After which, he began to say that if the task goes beyond the boundaries of the demonic forest, then this is too much. When the young man said that he asked to be allowed to choose his own security and that the lectures would have to be suspended for some time, the teacher replied that, of course. Does he really not need help? Our hero replied that since they told him to get out on his own, nothing could be done. He, a stranger, has no other options. Then he put on his cloak and told him not to try to follow him, because this concerned only him. I want to breathe some fresh air. On the way, the young man thought that now is the time to find adventure for his butt. His guide, under the name Sun, is already asleep. Apparently, due to the fact that nothing had passed since his arrival, the young man got lost. Suddenly, he heard a melody that was heard somewhere nearby, and decided to go see what kind of musician was playing so well. The guy was so carried away by singing some romantic song that he didn't even immediately notice that our hero had approached him. The young man laughed sarcastically and said that this was simply a wonderful performance. Nothing had amused him so much for a long time. The stranger immediately blushed with shame, and Murip asked his name. He replied that Udeha he serves in the 6th team of the Black Blade Squad. The guy asked what he was doing here late at night. The new acquaintance replied that he was spending his last night as a warrior. He can no longer pick up a weapon. Judging by his attire, the guy is the gentleman they are talking about. Murip replied that he was smart. Then he explained why he couldn't hold a weapon. The young man suddenly asked what color he thought the moon was. Our hero replied that yellow, of course. Udeha replied that for him now absolutely everything is black and white. Our hero stated that most likely it was because of this that he failed some mission. Let him post it. The guy explained that he was the commander of the Black Blade Squad, which is responsible for special missions in the demonic forest. At first, everything went fine. They were tasked with dealing with the aliens who invaded the Eastern Division. As luck would have it, their uniforms were very similar to the enemies. As a result, he confused allies with enemies and inflicted serious injuries on his comrades. His guys were yelling that he was completely out of his mind. This is the worst commander in their life. Now they have to retreat. His detachment was unable to protect the Eastern Division, so it made a forced retreat. After this, he was demoted in rank. But due to guilt, he could no longer engage in battles. It's a really lousy story, isn't it? But thanks to him for listening. Since he is the heir of the demonic forest, no one will touch him in Chungking, so he wishes him good luck. Murip asked where he was going. He replied that he wanted to go to some quiet place and engage in farming. Our hero exclaimed that what kind of agriculture? It is clear that he cannot get military discipline out of his head. Stop talking and let him give him a sword. Having examined it, the young man said that the one who was retiring had a very well-maintained weapon. The interlocutor is a warrior to the core. A neat sword is the core of the demonic forest's martial foundations. The young man noted to himself that pride would not allow this type to give up completely. Then he added that he should take him to the Chonha Tavern, and he would straighten his brains out. The guy objected that it would happen again, that he was leaving these parts. Murip stated that since he believes that there is no longer a place for him in the demonic forest, then they will find him a new one. Therefore, the young man invites him to join forces, like outsider with outsider. Udeha thought about it. A carefree character and a life in which there is nothing left to lose. If he follows him, will he be able to change? After a while, the guy said that Chunking has 4 exits, in the north, east, west, and south. All of them are connected by 2 paths resembling a cross. The demon forest controls the northeast. The 2 in the southern part are ruled by a family called the Great Blade. The rest are divided among themselves by clans in cooperation with the Great Blade. Murip noted that it is now clear why the demonic forest is so worried about the unholy clan. Turns out they have bigger cones here. If the Cholsa gang is attacked, will the Great Blade get involved? The young man replied that perhaps yes. But they do not want war, since they will lose many warriors in the event of a clash with the demonic forest. The young man clarified what their chances of winning a battle against the Great Blade were. Udeha replied that only defeat. Although the number of masters is approximately the same, the scale of the fighting forces varies greatly. The warriors of the unholy clan and the Ronin are on their side. Our hero stated that then we just need to not give them a reason to attack. The young man asked what he was going to do. Murip replied that she would go to this place. The tavern will definitely belong to him. Let him go buy some meat, because they can't be opened. He will make a little noise, but he doesn't need to interfere. The guy tried to argue that it was better to go together, but our hero replied that everything has its reasons. Let him wait outside. No matter what happens, you don't need to go inside. As soon as he entered the room, he immediately told the boss to give him a bottle of strong drink and a snack. One of those present immediately said that he had not seen him here before. Isn't he supposed to be here in an hour? He'll tell you right away. because it looks like the guy doesn't know the rules. At this time, places are occupied in a slightly different way. Will he show me his wallet? Murip thought to himself that, in principle, nothing else could be expected from the garbage from the wicked path. After which, he muttered that everything is really the same everywhere. Why are they so insatiable? When they have already calmed down, but all the time it is less and less. The most effective way to get what you want is through negotiation. Negotiations require a reason. While our hero was thinking about this, he was hit in the face with a fist. In these negotiations, the Great Blade would have no reason to interfere. Meanwhile, the leader of the Cholsa gang, Yuk Mubon, grabbed his hands and mockingly said that he could not even dodge. The guy just came to the tavern for a drink. This incident will be gratuitous violence by this gang. At this time, Yu Deha was thinking about what he had heard that the gentleman knew the basics of martial arts for self-defense. But it seems that he turned out to be much stronger than they say about him. If the Great Blade interferes with all this, then things will not end well. After this thought, someone flew out through the wooden door, breaking it with themselves. The young man cautiously looked inside and began to ask where his master was. But inside he saw only members of the gang, who were warming up and saying that they had not had such a blast for a long time. The voice of our hero was heard from behind, who quietly muttered that he was there. The guy immediately ran up to him and asked if he was okay. The young man lisped that he said that the Great Blade does not fit. After this, it dawned on the young man why the master had brought him to this place. The gang leader exclaimed that this was the same snot-nosed parasite from the demonic forest who didn't even know how to use a sword. Then they began to laugh that such a mattress could not be the heir. Udeha hissed whether they even knew who they had just touched. Actually, this young man is indeed the heir of the demonic forest. It was all over literally, in an instant. It turned out that Chin did not fight with the Cholsa gang, which is part of the Great Blade, but was beaten for no reason. There was no reason to involve the Great Blade, so the gang was left in a huge debt to the demonic forest. The doctor said that he had little luck with the places that were hit. There is a possibility that he will never be able to fully recover. In fact, it was not a doctor, but a hired actor. Shou Pension hissed that they had raised the ears of all of China in order to find Murip. At the moment, this young man is a potential contender for the heir's place. If it were his will, he would crumble them into small pieces right now. But in this situation, the opinion of the victim himself is important. Our hero muttered that he was sorry that, as the heir, he allowed himself to be beaten by a gang of wicked ways, thus tarnishing the reputation of the demonic forest. Rumors about what happened had already spread throughout Chungking. He doesn't know how to continue living now. I just want to go to the next world. The guy shouted that it was his fault. There was no need to do this. The young man understands that he cannot console him with anything, but let him at least allow him to pay for his treatment. When our hero stated that now he also wanted to humiliate him in terms of money, the leader shouted that this was not so. In this case, let him name any desire. Suddenly, it began to dawn on the man that the young man had done this on purpose, so that everything would turn out this way. The heir would have let the Great Blade intervene in this if he had used force. Does he really have no military pride at all? The young man pretended to be exhausted and began to whisper that he should give him the tavern. The mercenary immediately exclaimed that, of course, what questions? He noted to himself that he was a plus. He made the heir crippled and sold the tavern cheaply. Even the amount he brought for treatment will be more. But suddenly, Murip muttered that he should still leave money for treatment. The guy exclaimed, "Isn't one tavern enough?" Our hero looked at him carefully and said that it was probably better to commit suicide. The young man immediately exclaimed that he would leave him, just don't let him die. Unfortunately, the anger of the head of the Tesserim house is not limited to two. But the leader of the Cholsa gang managed to escape alive, giving away the money in the tavern. When he left, the man said that he could remain disabled. Why did he end up in a tavern in the middle of the night? Murip replied that he wanted to have a couple of drinks. About a disabled person, it's all acting, so no need to worry. Sho Pension said that he would ask something then. Taking back the Chonha Tavern was the task given by the head of Urim, wasn't it? The young man replied that no, his task was to change his opinion about himself. The teacher muttered that so be it. So what about this assignment? Is it passed or not? The man replied that it was difficult for him to understand the master's methods. However, since it was necessary to change his opinion about himself, he successfully completed this task. When our hero went outside, Cho Pension ran after him, who wanted to ask him something. Did he really put his pride aside just to pass the exam? The guy exclaimed what was so important about his notorious pride. The elder countered that pride was a critical factor for survival in Murim. The young man replied that he should remember that when a person wants to achieve something, he sometimes has to wallow in the mud. Does he really think that if they, who are not even capable of wresting the inn back from the scum, put their pride forward, someone will thank them for this? Let him come to his senses. It is better to think about the real enemy who is sitting right under their noses. He means the great blade. Looking after him, the old man thought that he understood that he was asking him to put pride aside, but why take such a difficult path? A lot of people don't take him seriously. And what normal warrior would follow someone who would be a punching bag for a gang of bandits? The young man will have to try hard to increase the support of the heir. Meanwhile, in one of the taverns, the subordinates greeted their leader, who had done an excellent job. The man told them that he would stop sucking up, but they, in turn, asked when he would open the bottle. Can they try a sip? Mug Inpi countered that they were not going to give anything to anyone. Where is this world coming to? The clan of the Wicked Way is already engaged in trade. The ward reminded that the Great Blade clan does not find fault with such things. The guy replied that he was right, and they just carry out other people's orders and enjoy a drink. While he was saying that with such a cover no one would pay attention to them, and if he understood something, he would die, a young man burst into the room, screaming. He immediately said that something simply incredible had happened. The owner can't even imagine. The young man ran for so long that his throat was torn, after which he snatched the jug from the hands of the head and began to drink greedily, without even stopping. Everyone around flared up that Mug, with sweat and blood, got this alcohol during a trading trip. How could he not even ask? The man was yelling, he didn't know. If it were up to him, he would have opened his stomach and taken the drink back. Inpi abruptly grabbed him by the head and slammed him against the table, while shouting that he should not get involved in other people's conversations. After which he turned to the newcomer and declared that if he had made a mountain out of a mountain, then today would be the day of his funeral. Stuttering, the guy asked if he remembered Erin from the demonic forest. The leader replied that, of course, he remembers. She is the daughter of Cho Pension, who disappeared about 30 years ago. A very capable girl who was called an incomparable beauty. If she had not died so early because of the heavenly yin, then Sichuan would have been completely different. Heavenly yin is a feature of the body in which the innate energy contributes to rapid progress in the study of the science of martial arts. However, its disadvantage is that, during use, the body is gradually destroyed due to the fact that the vessels are strongly influenced by yin energy. The young man replied that it was true. It's hard to believe, but her son appeared in the demonic forest. Mug froze in surprise and asked if he was making fun of him. Does she really want to say that she gave birth to a toddler with illness? The guy replied that it was true. There's a commotion in the forest right now, although he doesn't understand what the point is in having an heir. Inpi asked if he knew martial arts, but he replied that he knew nothing. When the man grabbed the sword, the messenger was at first frightened and began to shout that he knew nothing and that he immediately ran here as soon as he heard the news. The man told him to calm down. He's actually going to the Great Blade clan because there's something that needs to be discussed, and the booze is all theirs. To himself, he thought that now they, the Ronins, were covered by the influential clan of the Great Blade. Because the demonic forest had no heir, they all considered him to be the master of the province. But suddenly, out of the blue, the offspring of Erin herself appears. Now everything can change radically. If the boy inherited his mother's talent and even learned martial arts, by now he has definitely become a cool master. How could he have been beaten then? Meanwhile, Cho Mugen said that a lot has happened during his absence. He was given the lead on the way home. How does Murup feel? The young man replied that he was completely fine and apologized for the trouble he had caused. The head of Urim immediately said that it was his mistake, so he would accept the punishment. But the gentleman objected that he was not going to punish anyone. As he understood, the head of Nerums ultimately won. Have they found a suitable location for Murip? The teacher raised his finger and replied that, yes. What does the gentleman think about the Paisan temple? But suddenly there was a sharp answer. No. The man said that his temple wields knowledge and is not suitable for the heir. That's why he won't even listen to anything. He has no seats. Representatives of the Mayan and Havanma departments immediately said not to even look in their direction. Let them choose other options. The head of the demonic forest realized that no one wanted to take him in because he had been beaten by a gang of thieves. Unexpectedly, the head of Urim announced that he had an idea. Is it possible to create a separate institution for the heir? Northwestern Bureau, for example. In the past, when the demon forest occupied a dominant position in the province, the department of the same name was in charge of Chungking's business affairs. However, after their power faded, only one Northeastern Bureau remained. Does the head of Urim really want to throw out the helpless heir to the Northwest, where the power of many clans is stationed? When asked if they still had a retail outlet on that side, the man replied that the Chunha Tavern, which was recently returned by the heir. The master exclaimed, "Has he really lost his mind? Why is he still trying to spite the heir?" The head asked if he really took him for a 5-year-old child. The teacher asked what his problem was then, because Murup almost lost his life because of his wild exam. The man responded by admitting that the assignment was wrong. He did not hope that the heir would actually take any action. However, the result turned out to be different. He saw potential in him. It seems to him that a place that he can manage independently is suitable for the young man. He believes that this gift was given to him at birth. Even if the heir is unpredictable for them, then even more so for others. If they build a Northwestern Bureau, he will allocate his warriors to the guy. Cho Mugan exclaimed whether he understood the hidden meaning behind the construction of the Northwestern Bureau. The man replied that, yes, this is a direct challenge to the Great Blade clan. The demon forest can regain its former influence by monopolizing the Northwest. Their enemies are hitting their capital harder and harder every day. It's time to put an end to this. He is firmly convinced that the heir can be entrusted with the future of the demonic forest. The teacher couldn't believe his ears. The head of Urim was joking or something. Everyone stared sharply at our hero and began to whisper to him to refuse, since he couldn't handle such a job. Shame alone is enough for them. No need to make unnecessary noise. The guy asked if they could do it again. Otherwise, he didn't hear well, because of the heads of departments who asked him to give up something. The Northwestern Bureau is responsible for entrepreneurship in Chongqing. The problem is that the clans located there are allies of the Great Blade. If you provoke them, they 100% get in the way. Mugan replied that it was. The Great Blade's combat strength greatly surpasses them. But if you subjugate some of the small clans of the Northwest, the numerical imbalance will be reduced to some extent. I thought to myself that despite its superiority, this clan is also putting pressure on the economy of the forest in order to subjugate it from all fronts. Even if Murip fails, it is not a fact that a war will break out. Suddenly, the young man replied that he agreed. However, he does not need labor. The head of Urim objected that the complexity of running a trading bureau was fundamentally different from his task of capturing a tavern. He will assign a guard to him, who will accompany him everywhere and always. The head of the demonic forest added that it is true that the work is extremely important and large scale. Let him follow the advice. Our hero asked in surprise whether someone would follow him. He has absolutely no need for any warriors. Finally, the guy will say that it seems no one trusts him. However, there is nothing to worry about. They would meet here again soon after he captured the Northwest. Meanwhile, the man said that she heard about the situation with the tavern, and this whole situation is quite funny. The guy returned Chonha without ever using a weapon, so that they would have no reason to interfere. It is not so often in Murim, where everyone is too proud, that one can meet someone who only pursues benefit. Moreover, he is his age, and even his heir. Surprisingly, they have never seen each other yet, but the guy already feels a connection with him. The heir to the great blade, Chon Hvagi, can't wait to meet Chin Marip. After some time, hearing some noise behind him, our hero asked if it was Shin Huan. The guy replied that yes. The head of a secret detachment greets his master. The young man recalled that he asked him not to come. Has he forgotten that they are watching them? The guy replied that he was guilty, but the guys couldn't let him go alone. Let him at least let him follow him. The young man replied that he was as stubborn as a donkey. Where are his subordinates at the moment? The ward said that they were waiting outside the walls of the fortress, so that they could take action at any moment. Murip said that life on the streets is not life. Let him prepare an overnight stay for everyone. The subordinate objected that they could be discovered. Our hero asked the question, does he really think that these people will come to such a distance? The guy replied that he was listening and noted that his height had changed. Chin replied that, yes. Now, among the 10 best masters in the world, he has almost no competitors. When the growth process is over, the internal energy that the teacher sealed will return to him. By the way, since the subordinate is already here, he wants to give him some work. The guy replied that he was ready for anything. Just let him tell him what to do. Things moved quickly in the Northwest. Thanks to the financial assistance of the heads of Nerim and Urim, the tavern, which was empty after the departure of the Cholsa gang, saw a new life. The Northeast also provided good labor by joining the Northwest. The guys were ready to serve the heir. One will be a delivery boy, and the other a cook. Our hero says that he had been wandering around all day, and now he was simply dying of hunger. Let them whip up something for him that they are most confident in. The guys unquestioningly rushed to complete the assigned tasks, and Murup thought to himself that with such guerrillas, no one would clean out the tavern. Udeha asked if he could ask what the young man was reading. He replied that it was a book that briefly outlined the situation in the Northwest. The Cholsa gang, military officials, the Sochon clan, Silda, the Muva gang. What kind of rabble is gathered here? A friend said that the gangs are only here to support trade. Others make money by transporting various cargo or transporting people. Our hero noted that something was written there about Cholsa. The leaders of these two gangs do not find a common language with each other. He thinks why. They are both similar in that they work for the Great Blade clan. You can consider them competitors, since they definitely need to prove their abilities in order to continue collaborating with the Great Blade. After which, while eating noodles, he said that Deha would have to be an errand boy for some time. Meanwhile, the head of the Cholsa gang, Yuk Mubon, was drinking one after another. The first is for the Lost Tavern, the second is for money, and the third is for bankruptcy. Suddenly, a subordinate appeared and said that guests had arrived from the demonic forest. The man was indignant that these Herods needed more from him, but the ward objected that the guest came with a gift. The head immediately cheered up and exclaimed that this was where he should have started. Next came Yu, who said that he had arrived there on the orders of the heir. He ordered the gift to be given to him. It turned out that these were fried flatbreads, gift in honor of the opening of the Chonha Tavern. The man was indignant. Was it really the brat who decided to make fun of him? Yes, he ruined his whole life with this. Why did he give up these roles? Let him lay out what he really came for. But the young man only replied that they didn't need anything else, and tomorrow he will stop by again. The man still couldn't believe that he had come just to give him the cakes. Therefore, he ordered T-Bone to follow him. He blurted out that he would come again tomorrow. It seems to him that the horses may soon move after such visits. Therefore, let him find out what the matter is and report to him. A week later, the young man thought that he was a master of surveillance and a local cutie. His observation has been going on for several days. After buying rice cakes at the market, Yu always heads towards them. During all this time, the young man realized one thing. He seems to really like flatbreads, because he only buys them and nothing more. I wonder what flavor it will taste like today. With bean paste or honey, he likes the first one better. When he reported this to his master, he yelled that T-Bone had been stupidly eating rolls all week to no avail. The guy was indignant that these words hurt him, because in fact, he got the information. Rumors began to circulate among the people that they were on friendly terms with the demonic forest. The man was indignant. What kind of nonsense is this? Why are they even their friends? The ward replied that the man in red gave them cakes every day. It seems that the Manhwa gang found out about this and started a rumor that they had become friends with the demonic forest. The young man shouted what kind of news this was. Why didn't he tell him about this earlier? Chin Murup will now become a dead man. Meanwhile, Deha was asking what he should do today, whether he should carry rice cakes again. Our hero replied that he might not walk again. In any case, people have already started spreading gossip, something like, "A bunch of scum abandoned the Great Blade and joined the demonic forest. The Manhwa gang is already messing with their brains, and now they are doing it too. In this state, Cholsa will not be able to use their head normally, and in general, their head is delayed for some reason." After these words, the doors suddenly opened. Our hero smiled and told his charges to immediately bring drinks for their dear guest. The enraged man exclaimed where he saw the guest here. Murup replied that his face was so flushed, let him sit down quickly. Otherwise, he will soon fall off his feet. The young man sharply kicked the table at which Chin was sitting and yelled whether the guy even knew why he had come. The young man suggested that we share a glass with him. The head of Cholsa only became angrier and began to ask whether he was really taking him for some kind of fool. Our hero stated that this means that they will not drink together and talk too. The guest said that he would rather break his head with a bottle. Chin sighed heavily and noted that he himself was steadfast. In this case, nothing can be done. Then he added that the working day was over and told Deha to close the windows and Puj and Adan to wait in the kitchen. The man asked what all this show-off was for. Has he already forgotten how badly he was beaten last time? Murup said that he suggests that whoever cleans up all the dirty deeds of the Great Blade should simply shut his mouth. For a long time, everyone believed that a person's character is formed by his manners. Once a guest has a request, he simply cannot afford to refuse him. Yukmubon laughed loudly and muttered that there was just some kind of circus going on around. Let him attack already, since he is so brave. He didn't even have time to finish speaking when the young man was already near him and declared that he was already in the process. After which he sharply grabbed him by the face and said that the person must return as much as he was given. Just let him try to make a sound. If someone on the street hears, he will kill the entire Cholsa gang. This place has been divided into parts by an unholy clan that cooperates with the Great Blade. These lands are considered wild, as they are located on the territory of an unholy clan. The gang naturally interact with each other. This is because the wicked clans of Sichuan itself are extraordinary. To earn the patronage of a Great Blade, you must prove your skill. But no matter how paradoxical it may sound, if the organization does not have strength, it will eventually be destroyed. Among them is one who survived not only through strength, but also through resourcefulness. The second most powerful of the Cholsa gang is Yuk Mubon. Only Bon Lim from the Great Blade is scarier than him, but despite this, he is so strong that people like Yuk could be counted on one hand in Chungking. How could this even happen to him? Doesn't he even know how to counterattack? The young man cannot help but be angry at this situation. Despite the fact that Murap had such power, he hid it and suffered all the humiliation. Meanwhile, the man still had no intention of calming down and tried to attack our hero, but nothing worked. As a result, Chin grabbed him by the face again and hissed, clearly saying that if he made another noise, the guy would destroy all his sixes. The opponent thought to himself that he believed that this attack would not have any power, but although he was not pulled in too much, he feels that he will soon recoil. Although it is hard to believe, his skills are far superior to him. First, you need to capitulate and inform the blade. Suddenly, the young man got ready to go somewhere and told Deha to look after him. He asked in surprise where the gentleman was going. Our hero replied that he was with the Cholsa gang. Since the enemy did not take his words seriously, he will destroy them today. The young man realized that there was no other option at the moment, so he admitted defeat. After which, he asked to spare his group. Our hero noted that he made the right decision at the right time. Today, luck is on his side. The leader, Yuk, seems to be a man, but he cries like a woman. Let him buy him a drink. He immediately shouted to Puge and Aiden to bring the highest quality alcohol and snacks. When the guys set the luxurious table, Marip told them to also sit down and eat. They have something to chat about now. When else will they be so happy? Let them sit down and not spoil his mood. After which he said that he was glad that they were all gathered at one table. Before he gets down to business, he wants to say something. As they see, he had a reason to hide his powers. He talks about the demonic forest. Therefore, he wants everything that happened here today to remain between them. The leader simply came to the tavern to have a drink with him. Will he be able to keep his promise? Yuk replied that he would keep his mouth shut. Our hero then said that they can now have fun. Or is there something that is bothering them? Yu, just in case, clarified whether he is a villain. The guy exclaimed how he could call him that. After which he ordered the leader to fall and do push-ups. When asked what he now thinks, who this gentleman is, his friend replied that he is evil itself. The young man stated that now you can ask Yuk. Let the wicked one answer, whether he is a villain. The man had all the most unflattering words he knew spinning in his head, but he answered out loud that the gentleman was not a villain, because in the end he spared him. Chin replied that, right, let him return to the table. Then he told Deha that martial arts are a tool for killing, and warriors are a tool. The world is full of dangerous guys. It's stupid to argue about good and evil. There are people who spend their whole lives hiding because they have the same roots as those who are going to kill them. Have they ever seen how a dagger flies past them and how the child's eyes tremble? For him, martial arts is about survival. If you die, then good and evil will be of little use. The guy wondered what kind of life he had before, after which he said that he would obey him unquestioningly. Our hero replied that seeing their leader nod, he felt that he knew something. Therefore, he invites you to laugh and have fun. The man laughed artificially, although tears were flowing down his cheeks, and agreed with everything out loud. Meanwhile, the mercenary on the roof could not understand what they were chatting about so cheerfully. Was the Cholsa gang really captured by the demonic forest? No matter how you look at it, choosing the demon forest over the influential Great Blade is simply insane. The enemy's heir and the head of the Cholsa gang entered into an alliance. It is necessary to report everything as soon as possible. Noticing that the young man was looking at the ceiling for some reason, they asked him what happened. Our hero replied that it seemed to him that there was a rat on the roof. Apparently, she ran away because of Yuk's laughter. It's better to just keep drinking. Where did he learn to drink like a bottomless barrel? He replied that he was also one of the best drinking masters in the Wicked clan. When Chin asked if it might be worth inviting the Northwestern Alliance for a drink, the guy spat out the entire contents of his mouth. Then he asked again what he had just said. Our hero replied that he made inquiries and found out about the Northwestern Alliance. I would like to know more about them. After a while, there will be another meeting of the Northwestern Alliance. Let him call him next time. The guy, dumbfounded, replied that they would let him know. If there is no special business, they meet at certain intervals. It may take a long time until the next meeting. The young man replied that, okay, but this is a special matter. Something special is about to happen. Meanwhile, the man noticed that he was being followed and asked how long he was going to follow him. What kind of a hobby is this so bad? The head of the silver nothingness, so Jinwan, told the fourth head from the northwest, Kwon Hekbi, that if they capture him, there will only be two left. Let him just follow him, because the owner ordered him to tie him up. If he behaves quietly, he will untie him. The old man noted that it is now clear who kidnapped the leaders of other branches. There are no traces, which means this was not the work of a gang. He expected an experienced master to do this, so I wasn't going to wait my turn. The man specially forked out money and hired security. Let the two-headed sword masters come out. Their technique is said to be similar to a divine sword. Suddenly a voice was heard asking if he was talking about them by chance. He doesn't know about the masters, but he definitely made cripples out of them. Yen Chu added that the vice chief was late because he had left them so broken that his teeth were already chattering. The old man objected that this simply cannot be. How can one defeat the best swordsman of Sichuan? He was told to shut the door if he did not want to share their fate with them. Let him follow them silently. The elder became angry and rushed to the attack, shouting how dare he talk to the vice leader of the Great Blade like that. But the young man, with one precise blow, smashed the enemy's sword and rendered him harmless. So Jinwan sighed heavily and asked his ward to be a little calmer. The guy was indignant that he didn't understand whether it was the Great Blade or someone else, why they couldn't just destroy them. Looking at his technique, it seems that he's not capable of anything at all. The young man objected that that was enough. Their god had his own plans. By the way, as he said, the head can handle this on his own. Therefore, he will do the rest, and let him help their god. He didn't forget how to turn to God. The guy replied that, yes, he was not a robber, but a ronin, so he was ready to give his life for him. More precisely, the guy is not God, but an heir. He achieved success and became so big. I would like to go to meet him. The young man looked at all this and asked him not to smile so widely if he could. A few days later, our hero was thinking about how he had already gotten to him, after which he said that he was just curious why, of all the guys, it was Yen Chu who came close. The young man replied that no one knew him in Sichuan. Therefore, he was ordered to come here, whether he should return back. Murip replied that no, and clarified whether they told him that he should not be called God, but called Master. Then he replied that he understood everything, after which he clarified whether anyone else needed to be insulted. Our hero replied that there was no one yet. Let him not even dare to take a step without his permission. Yen was surprised if there was still no one from Chokchul. Then why was he invited? The gentleman replied that no one called him. Chin simply said to call anyone, and he appeared. When the man began to smile stupidly and replied that it was probably so, the guy grabbed his head and exclaimed that he was about to go crazy. Then he looked out from behind the door and said that the guys could go back. Deha asked if everything was okay, who this guy even was. Murip replied that it was a Ronin from Shanxi who was related to him. He has business with them. That's why he called him. Yu replied that he understood and said that a man from the Cholza gang had just arrived. The out-of-breath guy greeted him and said that the Northwestern Alliance was calling for a consultation. The young man grinned and said to Yen Chu to get ready, because the Chokchil will come soon. Chongjin Fortress is controlled by one of the 6 banthas of the Northwest Alliance, the most powerful Sokka gang. In this tavern, they gather once a month and negotiate. Despite the fact that the meeting schedule was not followed, meetings were always held. It is very difficult to get an audience with these people due to rumors about the demonic forest. Apparently, he is in bad standing with them. Although it didn't matter at all, he also felt disgusting because of this leader of the Muva gang. If now the young man is branded a traitor, he will simply destroy them all. Going inside, the guy noted that apparently he was the last to arrive. Everyone has already gathered. The head of the Muva gang, Chu Kwon-do, immediately declared that he had thick skin. Shouldn't I be serving the demonic forest now? Mubon replied that he had completely forgotten that there was one rat who was spreading rumors and shaking the air aimlessly. He will definitely find her and strangle her. The head of the Sika gang, Sok Kim Jon, interrupted them and said that if they want to fight, then let them do it outside. He doesn't want to see them destroy his tavern. One of the guys said that they got together earlier than the appointed date. Why such a rush that he called all the leaders of the Northwestern Alliance? The man reported that this morning he noticed soldiers of the Great Blade walking along the street like cockroaches. He immediately hurried to the Great Blade to find out what was the matter. As a result, it turned out that all 6 leaders of this clan simply went missing. Mubon immediately turned pale and remembered our hero's words that something special was about to happen. When some looked at him questioningly, the guy immediately said that he was simply too surprised. To himself, he thought that the leaders of the Supreme Blade were not ordinary people at all. What is the real identity of this heir? Now he will simply lose consciousness. Immediately, the question was asked whether someone from the demonic forest had done this, which struck the young man to the very heart. Someone answered that they didn't think so. Due to the emergence of a new heir, the Great Blade carefully monitored the demonic forest. There were no suspicious movements from them. Speaking of the leaders of the Great Blade, they are definitely tough opponents. But in the demonic forest, where there is not even a normal army, this risk is useless. The man stated that a knife in his bosom is much worse than a knife waved in front of his face. If this is not the demonic forest, then there is someone more dangerous. The head of Sokka stated that this is why he gathered everyone in this place. He believes that they should unite and start searching. Suddenly, there was a cry from above that they needed to take refuge in a safe place. An unknown attacker broke in and destroyed their warriors. Suddenly, the doors opened and Chu appeared, who noted that he couldn't stand bad guys. If a person speaks, you need to listen carefully. They all deserve punishment. Next came Murip, who said that it was very rude to start without waiting for the main character. Sok Kim immediately exclaimed that Yuk was still at one with the demonic forest, but he replied that no, the heir was also making his contribution to the Northwest. Chin noted to himself that Mubon had done his job well, and now, if he wants to live, he should cling to the chair and not rock the boat. After which he told Yen to first deal with the mole rat, or the guy who stands on his own 2 feet, but there is no need to touch his face. He replied that he understood everything and would deal with them immediately. The head of the 7 Swords gang, Du Yengan, shouted how such a mudblood dares to appear there and pollute the air of the Northwest Alliance. Now they will put him in his place. But he immediately received a fist in the face, so much so that his teeth flew in different directions. After this, all the heads of the other gangs immediately rushed to attack the calmly feeling Chu. Murip thought to himself that he only wanted to get rid of one person. But which one should you choose? Of course, it is beneficial for him to leave Master Sokka alive. He is resourceful, and his pot cooks well. Perhaps the head of the Muva gang, because he's still a coward. He is a malicious moneylender, so if you kill him, you can enlist the support of the people. It's better to choose it. After which he ordered the ugliest one to be killed. Let him choose a guy who looks like a villain and is involved in loan sharking. Yen pointed his finger at Mubon and asked if he meant that monkey. No matter how you look at it, he's the ugliest of them all. While the young man was hovering and thinking about who he was talking about, they were about to attack him from behind. But suddenly the young man turned around sharply and said that he would probably start with him. Then he made a powerful blow. Deha's jaw dropped as he took down the head of the Muva gang with one blow. Is there really such a master among the Shanxi Ronins? His thoughts were interrupted by the voice of Chin, who ordered him to guard the corridor. Whether friend or foe, if anyone dares to enter, let him cut his throat. After which he stated that if he studied the situation, then he could sit down. Since there is no chair, I will limit myself to this. Now we can begin a full-fledged Northwestern consultation. The man shouted, did he really think that after such a commotion he would get away with anything? Although his grandfather is a great man, this is a serious incident. Another added that apparently the guy does not know that they are supported by the Great Blade. The man who came with him is a master. Let him not be so arrogant, hiding behind the Ronin and grandfather. Murip replied that he himself was no better. It smacks of arrogance a mile away, yet it is only the sixth of the Great Blade. After which he ordered Yen Chu and Deha to alternate. Let them block the stairs and they can cut everyone off. Meanwhile, the gang members were running down the corridor and telling each other that they needed to beware of that Ronin. We urgently need to find a master and save him. But they did not manage to achieve their goal, as they immediately encountered the one they feared most. When the sounds of battle and screams began to be heard, the young man asked if he could hear his charges dying. The man was indignant. How dare he treat them like that, and at the same time be so calm? After these words, Deha unexpectedly hit him with all his might for such words towards the master. Our hero was surprised at this turn of events and noted that his energy was in full swing. What happened? The young man replied that the teacher told him that martial art is about survival, so he follows his instructions. Chin replied that everything is correct. Mercy may return in the form of a dagger. If it appears, there is no need to let it grow even more. Shouts began to be heard from the corridor that the head must be found. Let them not let their guard down, because the enemy is too strong. Our hero noted that the second platoon arrived in time. What loyal servants he had. In their opinion, there is an insect from the demonic forest and a mediocrity who is still under the wing of his grandfather. But since they only have to deal with one monster like Ronin, isn't this fight worth it? Mubon thought to himself that there was an inexplicable feeling of fear around him. The guy never thought that a day would come in his life when he would look at them with pity. Suddenly, Murap turned to him and said that the head of the Muva gang was no longer a tenant, so he can go and take over his territory. Now, she belongs to him. However, all property that was seized by moneylenders must be returned. Let him release the kidnapped women by paying their travel expenses. The young man simply could not believe his ears and replied that everything would be done in the best possible way. He can trust him with this. He noted to himself that the gentleman was brave and acted without hesitation. Shows no mercy to those whom he considers his enemies. Sometimes he seems like the worst villain in the world, but he has his own rules for survival. As far as he knows, among the Ronin of the whole world, except for Hexachelang, there is no warrior who has shown such incredible strength. This is clearly a technique that this suspicious heir brought with him. Deha thought to himself that although he decided to follow this guy, he was not worried at all. And today, he was convinced of it. After everything that happened, the gang leaders bowed to the heir and said that they would obey him. Just let him spare their people. He became convinced that this person would definitely regain the lost dominance of the demonic forest, after which our hero ordered him to go to Yen Chu and stop him. Otherwise, there will soon be nothing left of the Sokka gang. Then he ordered everyone present to listen to him carefully. As of today, they are severing all ties with the Great Blade. They replied that, as he pleases. When asked how much they contribute to the Great Blade, the men answered that 5% of the profits from the business. This is a deficit. The remaining amount is covered by commercial organizations or other means. The guy noted to himself that in order to survive in Chungking, you need to hold on tightly to this clan. If you raise funds from other sources to cover the business deficit, you can get rid of them. After which he stated that you can forget about training masters or increasing your power. The Great Blade is just a bunch of thieves skillfully maintaining power. He has no intention of squeezing their business. Let them act as they did before, but part of the profit in the amount of 1% is sent to the demonic forest. Those present were taken aback by this figure and, just in case, asked if it was accurate. Our hero said that if this is not enough for them, he can raise it to 2. Head Sokka muttered uncertainly that even in this case there was a big risk. Chin asked if he was refusing, but the man immediately said that 1% is just 1. Murip added that then the Northwest Alliance should actively participate in the demonic forest activities. If they leave the Great Blade, a crisis will definitely overtake them, and if they start being persecuted, he will deal with it himself. Instead of living like slaves and paying 5% interest all your life, isn't it better to make your dreams come true by gradually expanding your possessions? When asked if they would really be given such a chance, our hero replied that he was giving his head to be cut off. After some time, the heads of the Northwest Alliance appeared at the meeting of the demonic forest. Shomugan did not understand what was happening. Did the heir really contribute? After which, he said that he did not expect to see them all here. The head of Sokka responded that they didn't think this day would come either. After all, the Northwest Alliance and the Demonic Forest are not on friendly terms. Still, they are grateful to be accepted. When asked what they owe, the man said that the heads of the Northwestern gangs, from this day on, would like to conclude a truce with the Demonic Forest. They hope for their favor. Everyone present, in the literal sense of the word, dropped their jaws in surprise. One of them exclaimed, "Did they really come to make fun of them? Aren't they part of the Great Blade?" Suddenly, the voice of Murip was heard, who said that this was no joke. Why are they so upsetting to the people he worked so hard to find? Chomugan immediately told him to go through because he had long wanted to see him. Let him explain what happened. The guy replied that it was better to talk about the benefits they could get if they united and the future they could achieve. He just asked them politely. They promised to return part of the profits and actively cooperate with the demonic forest to preserve the business. The head of Sokko unconditionally confirmed his words. Although he washed himself with tears, the men did not understand what the catch was, what trick the heir was using this time. Some time ago, the head of the Cholsa gang also came on his initiative. Had he really learned the apostle technique? The teacher thought to himself that no matter what this guy did, his tactics were effective. It is very interesting how they managed to tame these people. Deha should know how this happened anyway. What did the heir do? But, however, this is not so important. Thus, the Northwest Alliance entered into an alliance with the demonic forest, and the borders of Chunking underwent significant changes. Considering that the Demon Forest is located in the northern part and the Great Blade is located in the southern part, Chunking is currently divided into north and south. However, the Great Blade will not attack immediately until the gang leaders are found and the violators are tracked down. They might start a war. Our hero replied that it was possible. He thinks that in 10 days everything will return to normal. Has the leader Yuk dealt with the Muva gang? Mubon replied that, yes. Only one guy named Bu Bisenju was adamant, while the rest bowed their heads. After all, this is the power of the wicked clan. Suddenly, our hero asked what would happen to the Cholsa gang if the leader Yuk suddenly backed out. If a person served dies and his subordinates have no desire to take revenge, isn't it frustrating? The man explained that he wanted to tell the guy not to treat his subordinates like the deceased Chu Quan Do. Mubon replied that he is not like that, so everyone can be calm. Adding that he would keep an eye on him, Chin asked how the Great Blade was doing. The head of Sokka responded that it seemed like they were focusing on solving the case of the missing leaders and leaving Chunchin to the Ronin. These warriors are special. It's hard to say that these parts are empty, since they also belong to the Great Blade. Among the Ronin, there is a great master who is called the Silent Seer. He trained many who later performed the most dangerous tasks. They shouldn't start acting yet, because the Great Blade himself will be watching them. Murip replied that they would protect them from them. After observing, he noticed that Chunking was located on a hill. From today, the best gang masters will be watching from above. The man countered that even though the city was at a high altitude, it would be difficult to know the situation of each gang since they were separated by buildings. Our hero objected that it would be enough to fire a signal flare, and everyone would understand everything. From today on, he leaves Yen Chu there. But since he also needs to rest, he will place additional security, although in most cases he can cope on his own. Let them post 3 guards. In case of an emergency, let one run to him and the second to the commander. Since communication is maintained by a pigeon, they will be able to quickly request reinforcements. When the flare is launched, Yen Chu will immediately come to their aid. If it launches in 2 places at the same time, then it will send another more ferocious guy. The man was shocked that there was still some kind of monster. He was able to achieve everything with just 1 Ronin. If they had not surrendered that day, the Northwest Alliance would have come to an end. The guy added that, in any case, while the Great Blade is busy with other things, this is a great chance for them. So there is no need to worry. One of the young people asked what would happen if a signal flare was launched simultaneously from 5 parts. Our hero replied that they could hide or run away. The main thing is to hold out for about 30 minutes. This time will be enough for Murup to burn the entire Great Blade and come to save them. Now it's time for him to go, and let them tell their subordinates about their plan, so that they have time to digest everything. After he left, the 2 men commented that they would never understand this young man's actions. The other objected that he understood 2 things. When war breaks out, they will not stand by, and just watch. And the heir is a person whom they will never want to turn into an enemy. Chin said it would be safe for 10 days, so nothing would happen from a couple of drinks, and you could drink a little. When asked why he was so confident in this deadline, the head of Sokka replied that he thought that the Great Blade had allocated so much time to consider the case. The leaders have disappeared, so it is unlikely that the case will be solved quickly. The guy noted that, if you think about it, then it all started from the tavern. Doesn't the head of Yuk think so? When no one responded, he was informed that he had just recently followed the heir. Meanwhile, the young man caught up with the young man and asked if it was his doing. The disappearance of the leaders of the Great Blade. Our hero grinned and asked a question. Even if this was the case, what would he do? Run to report to the Blade, or what? The young man objected that, firstly, no, of course not, and secondly, they still wouldn't believe him. Chin asked why he was interested then. Mubon replied that he was the only one in the Northwestern Alliance who knew about the real abilities of the heir. As a warrior, he would like to know its power. Our hero objected that even when he said this, he still didn't believe him, but he replied that he always believed. The young man said that if so, then so be it. He would share his secret with him. Since the world is full of eccentrics, he cannot be sure. But among the people he knows, there are only 10 people who can fight him. When the young man realized that we were talking about the 10 best masters in the world, they unanimously began to laugh insidiously. The gang leader clearly didn't believe him and said it was time to go. Our hero replied that, of course, let him come when there is time. Chin noted to himself that it was really hard to believe this. Master took measures to suppress the celestial yin energy in his body using an energy seal. This technique seals certain internal forces until the body grows and the balance of yin and yang is achieved. The day the seal is broken will be the moment physical growth stops. When that time comes, there will only be 2 people left who can fight him. This is the divine dragon Dan Soren and the sword, Lord Chonin. Then he turned to So Jinwan, who was nearby, and told him to try for him until that time. He replied that his task was completed without witnesses. When asked where he was keeping the leaders, the guy replied that they were imprisoned in the Kavanje cemetery on Mount Socho. Finding it will be quite difficult since it is located far deep in the forest. Our hero said after 10 days to start releasing them every day, one at a time. The young man replied that, okay, are there any other instructions? Murip replied that as soon as he does everything, he should not stick his head out. As long as the eyes and ears of the world are open, it cannot go ahead, at least until his power reaches its peak. The young man said that the commander had sent him a letter. It seems he learned something. The little boy that Qin saved in the distant past is named Sumun Hua. He, of course, grew up to become the commander of the Sichuan army. Specifically, he became the leader responsible for external relations on behalf of our hero, the ruler of the world. Sichuan, which was once one of the bandit provinces, was able to confirm the status of its martial arts thanks to the skills of the leader, Sumun Hua. The Great Blade has a short history of only about 10 years. In this letter, he probably describes how he broke into and captured Chungking. But to his great surprise, it was written there that the young man knew nothing about it. Therefore, Murup turned to the squad leader and told him to tell that guy to fast for a day. After some time, Deha was engaged in independent training, completely alone. Suddenly, someone appeared behind him, so the young man immediately attacked him with his sword. It turned out to be the heir, who stopped the blow with just 2 fingers and stated that it was strong. Who would have thought that he works so hard? Does he really want to say that he is a born warrior? The young man decided to clarify what he actually decided to tell him with his unexpected appearance. Murip replied that he had said that he would follow him. To do this, he needs to show more. If he doesn't want to be marked, let him defend himself. Yun replied that as long as it is a life and death struggle, he is always ready. Let the heir come. But when our hero began to attack him, the guy noted to himself that he had completely forgotten who his opponent was. Then he collected his thoughts and thought that he, of course, was very strong, but not invincible. He is said to be the youngest ruler of the demonic forest. It can be described in one word: talent. Whenever an opportunity presents itself, the master strives towards his goal without hesitation. Combat skills are also excellent. This sword is suitable for the demonic forest, which only chases pure-blooded demons. That's why the Great Blade didn't want to ally with them. Martial arts have been studied and developed over a long period of time. This is not the level where a person is helped by someone like a Great Blade who has existed for less than 10 years. When the young man decided to attack from behind, our hero noted that he knew that he would do just that. Deha thought to himself that he was crazy. Although he knows that this is not serious, he feels that he must kill him. When Qin said that there is no need to be afraid, because when the muscles harden, you involuntarily exert extra force, the opponent replied that he had almost defeated him. There is no need to ignore this fact. Murup said to take this seriously. Each master in this world has his own special techniques and fortitude. If he doesn't handle this, he'll lose his head faster than he can use his skills. This is the whole difference between an ordinary person and a master. Let him remember this once and for all. Yu thought to himself that he felt like he was being tricked. Is the difference really that big? All his attacks were repelled by one. He deliberately stayed close to distract his opponent, after which he stated that this was different from the stories of others. The heir is said to only have some self-defense skills. Qin replied that he never said that. Perhaps these conclusions were drawn from his tales that he did not learn martial arts from his mother. When asked what his real identity is, the guy answered, "Who knows? Perhaps one of the 10 best masters in the world." After which they both started laughing, and our hero wondered why he was surrounded by such people. Deha thought to himself that, to be honest, he is so good that it is hard to believe that he is mediocrity. In contrast to his sophisticated swordsmanship, his ability to make decisions on the battlefield is like the senses of wild animals. Suddenly, the guy said that if he could use his abilities, everything would be easier. But since he cannot use his strength in battle, he does not think that he should go into the thick of it. Then it dawned on him that they were concentrating all their efforts on solving the case of the missing leaders and leaving Chunchen to the Ronin. So now they are not in the southern part, after which he ordered his ward to grab the sword and follow him, as it was necessary to check something. On the way, the guy asked where they were going. Our hero answered irritably, "Can't he really guess? He replied that he understood. That's why he was asking. This part is guarded by warriors of the Great Blade. The locals here are different from ordinary people. They don't faint at the sight of the heir of the demonic forest. What he means is that he chose the wrong opponent to bluff. If it comes to a scandal, they will not stand on ceremony. The young man replied, since the Northwest is on the side of the demonic forest, it will be an eyesore. The subordinate thought to himself that in any case he could not leave him alone. But what was the master planning? Then he quietly said that the caretakers were secretly watching them, and there were a lot of them. Murup immediately started shouting that he would stop hiding like rats. Let them come out already. He was the one who broke into someone else's property. So why is the owner hiding? In a short period of time, about 30 rats materialized around them. Our heroes stated that this was too much and asked which of them was in charge here. Let him come out to him. From above, a male voice came from above, saying that he was in charge here, and his name is Mug Impa. The young man noted that events were unfolding very quickly. He had just come to talk to him. The young man came up with a great idea, so he wants to hire them. After which, he threw something towards the head. The man came to the conclusion that the heir of the demonic forest hit his head and went crazy. Does he even know who is behind all the gangs in the southern part and to whom they obey? Murup replied, how could he come here without knowing about it? The guy has no connections with the Great Blade, so don't worry. Mug stated that he did not care whether he was connected to the Great Blade or not. Let him say what he wants them to do. Running to the side, our hero declared that his assignment was murder. He gives them 30 minutes. If they succeed, the money will belong to them. Then he looked at Deha and said that if they lose this money, then it will be the end for them. So he has no other choice but to survive. The guy objected that he brought him to the southern part without warning and said, and survive. Doesn't Chin know about the history of his sword? The gentleman replied that that is why they came. There are no subordinates or comrades here whom he can cripple. You can swing his sword as he pleases. The money allocated by the limb ruler and the working capital of the Northwest are now in his hands. If they lose them, then we can consider them already corpses. The head intervened and apologized for interrupting, but they received the task from his heir for a colossal sum. Apparently, he didn't even leave them a choice, after which he ordered his subordinates to immediately set up the camp of the four ghosts. Due to the individualism of the Ronin, there are not many warriors with worthwhile skills. There are masters like the seventh Dark Scientist, but this is a unique case. It is said that Mug Impa, among all, is most like this man. An opponent who should not be underestimated. Ronin with such amazing skills. When those who live one day unite, it will be difficult to defeat them with basic skills. When the young man was about to be attacked from all sides, the thought flashed through his head, whether this was his end. The young man is simply a fool who trusted the heir. After which he collected his thoughts and repelled the attack. When he returned from another attack, he was surprised to himself that he could not have foreseen this. After the situation with his comrades, he couldn't fight like before. Was it really the sword that showed itself? The head shouted for them all to concentrate. Why bother with this insect? Let them immediately surround him from all sides. When our hero called out to him, the man immediately said that blood had already been shed. There's no point in asking for mercy now, but Murup said that was not what he wanted to say. He also risks his life. He will die very soon. Does he have anything to say? I thought to myself that I couldn't understand what was happening. He believed that this guy would no longer be able to control the sword. Imp has seen this before. If his memory serves him correctly, these are movements from the Red Wind Demon Sword technique. This is a special technique. Apparently, thanks to her, he rose to such a high position. The more you watch this sword, the more masterful its movements become. This sword becomes heavy when you use it to defend yourself. And vice versa, it becomes very light and fast when a person dodges enemy attacks. After which he shouted that Deha is amazing, but still he should look back sometimes. Turning around, the young man barely managed to dodge the spear, which stuck right into the place where he was standing. Next came the voice of the head, who stated that whoever was left alive should take care of the wounded and retreat, and he would deal with it himself. It turns out Yu has been misleading the whole world all this time. After all, there were rumors that he couldn't fight. The guy replied that he could not use the sword freely. The man turned to the heir and said that he needed to pay for the treatment of the children, so he would have to take this money. Our hero was surprised that he came out in person and reminded his subordinate that it was necessary to save the money. Without thinking twice, the man rushed to attack the young man, who managed to block it in time. He noted to himself that it was a mistake and should not have been blocked. It is necessary to find an opportunity to use the fury of the sword. While he was thinking about how best to proceed, the man struck another blow, which he barely managed to escape. This was followed by another series of powerful attacks, but they failed to inflict even a scratch on Deha. Mug stated that the demonic forest had not fallen yet. "Can't believe they were hiding a master like him." The young man shouted back that the real reason for this was complete freedom of action. Imp noted to himself that too much time had passed. If he did not use a secret technique, then this guy would be difficult to kill. Let the heir not blame him for anything. They both tend to drive their precious subordinates to death. The young man could not understand why his opponent was using a secret technique in such a crowded place. Then he felt that the direction of the wind had changed. Could it be a Ronin's fighting technique? The head shouted for him to forgive him, but he would have to kill the guy using this technique. When suddenly the voice of the heir was heard, declaring that enough was enough, the man shouted what this all meant. Time has already expired. His ward survived, so let him return the money. A person of such high morality is responsible for his words, isn't he? Mug had no choice but to throw the money back and tell his useless subordinates that it was time to leave. On the way, the head decided to have a little drink and was angry that time had passed so quickly. The young man cautiously objected that, to be honest, 30 minutes had already passed. In fact, the glass had already been over an hour. The man wondered to himself that it was strange if half an hour had already passed. Why didn't he stop them, since his servant was in danger? Was he really waiting for him to use the secret technique? Meanwhile, our hero told Deha that he held up well today, and they made a lot of money. The guy replied that he himself didn't know that his sword would behave like that. Since there were no comrades nearby to get hurt, his body reacted this way. Murip asked if he thought there would be a place for him in the demonic forest now. He replied that he did not know that he could remove his shackles. As for that guy, it was unexpected that he would use a secret technique in such a situation. If the man had prepared in advance, you would have grabbed it considerably. When our hero asked if he could now defeat him, it dawned on his subordinate that all this was done specifically in order to find out his secret. After some time, in the central regiment of the demonic forest, the guys noted that the very heir whom Cholsa had formatted was coming. After this, he managed to return the tavern and the northwestern lands, and next to him is a parasite. That is, a former commander of the Black Blade. Rumor has it that he fought Inpe this time. The guy thought to himself that when he first followed the heir, he was not sure that he would be able to return to military circles. Now, even the coldness in people's eyes has been replaced by respect. However, they did not recognize them, but the feat of reconquering the northwestern territories. Suddenly, our hero told Deha to look around, how clean the air is. The guy replied that glances in his direction could go unnoticed. The young man replied that that was not what he was talking about. Let him take a closer look at the soldiers. It is clear that their fighting spirit has returned. They all had already begun to realize that the demonic forest would soon spread its wings. But you can't relax at all. Let the young man return back to the tavern, and he will meet with the head and come. Seeing Murip, the man greeted the head of the Northwestern Department. The guy laughed and replied that the head of the Northwestern Department was greeting the Lord of the Demonic Forest. Mugen said that today the mood is good. He's very glad that Iren's son is finally recognized. It seems he has a lot to do. Perhaps you need help with something. The young man thanked him for this offer and said that, to tell the truth, he was short of people. We need someone who understands finance. The heads of the northwestern part, of course, will not joke with money, but I think everyone will be calmer if they have someone responsible for such issues. The head thought to himself that he was right. If you send one of these people, there is no need to worry, even if there is not enough money to pay taxes due to poor trade. That's why he said he would send a man. Suddenly, the young man announced that this time he had taken possession of the Northwest. He thinks that his uncle knows that his next target is the Great Blade clan. The head of the demonic forest replied that, of course, the Central Regiment has already begun secret training. When asked how he sees the future of their clan, Mugan replied that he wants to ensure that each of their warriors can live with their heads held high. The young man replied that everything was clear to him now. He will definitely fulfill all his wishes. Suddenly, the uncle said that she would like to get to know him better. Ahead of them lies a war with the clans of the Northwest and the Great Blade. Until today, none of them could even think about it. He didn't get a chance to talk to him because of work, but from the very beginning I guessed that the guy was not like everyone else. A demonic forest in which everyone can live with their heads held high is his desire as a ruler. His desire as an uncle is to destroy the wall that is hidden behind his nephew's smile. He understands that a lot of time has passed, but could Chin share his past with him? Murup ignored this and replied that the Great Blade could begin to act at any moment. He promises to contact him from time to time through the Northeastern Department. The head of the demonic forest stated that after all, before the guy was not a simple robber. It doesn't matter who he is, how he lived, and what lies on his shoulders. Let him remember that, first of all, he is his family. He would like the demonic forest to become for him a place to which the young man can always return. The young man again ignored this speech and simply said that it was time for him to go. On the way, our hero thought about whether he still had some feelings left. He lost his parents early, so he grew up under the tutelage of a teacher. Of course, I am grateful to him for everything that men taught him. But if his father and mother were alive, they would definitely look at him with the same eyes that his uncle just looked at. Then he slapped himself in the face as his emotions began to cloud his mind. You need to come to your senses. A mother's wish or a teacher's dying will. Given the choice between the demon forest and Sanshon, unfortunately, he would choose the latter. The demonic forest managed to survive somehow, but Sanshon wouldn't last long without it. In fact, my uncle has a complex dream. In order to take over Chunking, it is enough to get rid of the Great Blade clan. And in order to get Sichuan, it is necessary to bring absolutely all clans to his feet. But since Uncle wants to see a demonic forest in front of him, in which everyone can live with their head held high, here you will have to become so strong that everyone has no reason to worry. Like the pinnacle of harmony, the strongest Murim clan. Because of the Great Blade, he will not be able to leave these lands yet, but if he fulfills the family's wishes, his mother will be able to rest in the next world with peace of mind. The thoughts were interrupted by the voice of Deha, who asked why he had been gone for so long. Because guests had arrived, very important people from the Great Blade. Our hero asked who exactly, the head himself or something, had appeared. The young man replied that almost, heir to the Great Blade and one of the 5 geniuses, the sword of the demigod, is Chon Huagi. When asked if he came alone, the ward replied that no, Mr., accompanied by Mug Inpa. When he saw Murup, the guy exclaimed that he was really cute, as they say about him. Our hero glared at the man and said that it wouldn't hurt for him to open his mouth either if he really swallowed his tongue. He replied that he was not sure that they were in the right relationship to exchange greetings. The guy stated that he was a bore. Haven't you heard the expression that all people are brothers? Then he sat down opposite the guest and asked if he wanted to eat. In response, the heir laughed loudly, after which he thanked him and added that he had eaten before coming, so he would be glad to have a simple cup of tea. The young man immediately gave the order to the thugs to prepare everything they needed for the tea party. Then he said that it was good that he had come, because he just wanted to meet him. The interlocutor asked why the first one did not come. Murip replied that his people looked at him as if they were ready to devour him whole, so they were afraid. Chon laughed again and said that he should just warn him in advance if he wants to visit him. Chin thanked for the invitation and said that he would jump out when there was time. Let him not forget to buy a drink then. Vagi promised to prepare the best alcohol for him. They then simultaneously ordered all their subordinates to wait outside as they needed to talk. When asked how it felt to make a sharp leap from the son of a hunter to the air, Murip replied that there was nothing so important about this status, because the demonic forest could collapse at any moment. Chon replied that there are many people in Sichuan who still remember his glory. With his status, at least in these surroundings, the guy will not face contempt. The young man clarified whether he really thought so. Well, actually, the reception wasn't that bad. When the guy said that he was wondering what his goal was, our hero replied that first he wanted to get rid of the Great Blade. He replied that this was not a simple desire. Chin asked if he didn't overestimate his clan too much. The guy replied that if they were an easy opponent, the demonic forest would not have lost its dominance in Chanson. Our hero objected that this was because there were memories of honorable times, namely, the heyday of the demonic forest. The idiots who remember those times are most afraid of public opinion. They are warriors of the demonic forest. Is it possible for them to do this? Will they not be criticized for this? They know that at the moment of recognizing the worthless reality, the bright past will seem like fiction. For him, everything is a little different. There is no bright past in his memory, and no one told him about it as a child. Nothing stops him. If our hero needs it, he can lick the enemy's feet, and also stick a knife into an ally's back. The young man laughed loudly and said that he liked it. This seems to be the most effective way to survive in Murim. He's right. Survival comes first. It is not the strong who survive. On the contrary, the strong are those who survive. Therefore, I completely agree with him. Murip replied that he was glad that they thought alike. The day is already coming to an end. Maybe it's better to ask each other a question before going their separate ways. Then they argued a little about who would do it first, but our hero said, since he suggested it, he gives in to him. After thinking a little, the young man looked at him carefully and asked if it was him. Hinting at the theft of chapters, Chin asked who he meant. It was him, or the demonic forest. He replied that it was his, of course. It all happened too suddenly. As soon as he received a report about the disappearance of the heads of the branches, the leaders of the Northwest also turned away from them. The young man replied that he needn't worry. From tomorrow, Murip will start releasing them one by one. When Chon thanked him and said that his relatives were very worried about them, our hero was indignant that he was making some kind of monster out of him. The interlocutor replied that he did not reproach him for anything, because this is how their world works. It is worth being grateful just for the fact that a person is whole. When it was Murip's turn to ask a question, he asked how many days he thought it would take him to break the Great Blade. The guy was offended because he thought he would ask something more important. In his opinion, even a few years will not be enough for him. Our hero objected that they thought differently. 10 days will be enough for him. During this time, it is quite possible to get rid of them. Vagi noted that he is very funny. Raz says that the heads of the branches are alive. As a thank you, he will give him time until they all return. If he releases one person at a time tomorrow, he still has 6 days ahead. The guy answered sarcastically that he was very scared, but he wouldn't give it 10 days or something. The guest replied that he would not. Most likely, the next time they see each other, it will be their last meeting. Already on the street, he was met by Mug, who asked how it all went. He replied that everything was exactly as he said. He looks like a fool, but in reality, he is the complete opposite. With such an enemy, you should never let your guard down. They will begin to act while their missing comrades return. The man clarified whether he wanted to put aside the incident with the disappearance of the heads of branches. Chon replied that now is not the time to hope for the future. He feels sorry for their families, but shouldn't he first solve the problem that is right in front of their noses? So let them start preparing. He noted to himself that if they don't wait, some will not return. On the other hand, they are full of those who can take the place of the head of the branch. You should never give in to such an opponent. Therefore, what 6 days? He will remove it in 2 days. Meanwhile, Deha asked how he liked the heir to the great blade. After all, they say that a master sees a master from afar. Our hero replied that you couldn't easily ride a goat around him. The subordinate objected that he was not sure that he could talk like that. Murip replied that he was right, it is much more difficult to go around it. Now he'll go round up the central regiment and let him start preparing. When asked why there was such a rush, the young man replied that he was not going to wait 10 days, but would finish them off that very night. On the way, the young man noted that there were spies of the Great Blade around. It feels like there are 3 of them. After the return of the northwestern lands, the mercenaries became even more annoying. Even though he told Qianvan to ignore them, it's annoying. Judging by my uncle's words, he was also aware. If Qin finishes these off, the next ones will come. It's better not to provoke the Great Blade again. The warrior greeted him and said that he had gathered absolutely everyone as the heir had asked. The guy apologized for the delay and thanked him for agreeing to such a late meeting. Mugan exclaimed that the leadership of the central regiment was in place. Let him tell you why he called them together so suddenly. When Qin said that he needed to strike at the Great Blade, one wanted to exclaim that he was going crazy. But the teacher covered his mouth with his hand and clarified whether he meant that they would attack first. To do this, you need to hurry up with preparation. But Murip objected that there was no time for this. It was necessary to act right now. The master stated that he definitely doesn't have everything at home. Others asked incredulously if he was absolutely sure. Isn't it too early? It's better to make a clear plan and then act. Qin explained that today the heir of the Great Blade came to his inn. As they say, time flows the same for everyone. While they are making plans, the enemy will also begin preparations. He said that starting tomorrow he would release one hostage at a time, so there were 6 days left. If his guesses are correct, the heir will try to take the initiative into his own hands. Initially, the guy asked him for 10 days. I am sure that the enemy will not even think that they will make their move now. There will only be one chance. The head of the demonic forest asked everyone to calm down and asked if Murip was up to something. He replied that despite the fact that they managed to lure the small northwestern clans to their side, the leader in terms of the number of troops was still the Blade. The first step is to reduce the number of enemies. There are 500 people in the Great Blade branch in total. Of these, half went to investigate the disappearance of their superiors. They must eliminate the spies, thereby cutting the information thread, and then prevent the return of the departed warriors. The teacher asked if it would be better to strike the main military camp now. Mugen countered that if the battle dragged on, and the Great Blade warriors gathered together, they would be in a hopeless situation. The master stated that then it is necessary to think more. Another said that if they acted according to his plan, they would have to use absolutely all their strength. They will have no way to stop the enemy if he suddenly attacks the empty central regiment. The young man replied that if you take your families with you, then there will be no one left here. What then is the point of protecting a deserted place? After thinking a little, everyone present came to the conclusion that what he was saying was correct. Meanwhile, the heir to the Great Blade thought that they thought alike, so he probably did not fully believe that he was given 6 days. This promise was made in order to dust the young man's head at least a little. Most likely, Murip will not realize that they will begin to act even before the warriors return to Chungking. In this case, victory is theirs. Then he said that he had returned. The head of the Great Blade, Chon Byun, said that he was informed that he was meeting with the heir of the demonic forest. When asked if this was useful, the young man replied that he was able to look at himself from the outside, after which he told his father that he believed that they could not avoid war. The air of the demonic forest is too dangerous. It is necessary to hit the enemy before he gets ahead of them. The man replied that they had been putting pressure on the demonic forest financially for a long time, but all their efforts were in vain. Who came up with the plan for financial pressure? The young man replied that he was the boss of Pan Sayun. The head immediately turned to his ward and told him to bring him the head of that boss. The son stated that he lacks mercy. Byun replied that empty charity entails idleness of servants. He, as the heir, should also know this. Nothing can be done. If you have to fight, then you have to fight. He hopes that the young man has already come up with something. After this, the young man began to tell his father the plan of action that he had already sketched out. When the guy added that the warriors would return in 2 days and they had an hour left before arriving at the clan, his father interrupted him and loudly asked who was there. The subordinate said that it was his Tanel, and he has an urgent message for the master. It was written there that the demonic forest was going to leave the central regiment empty and hit the branch warriors. If they hadn't brought in a human, the situation would have become much more dangerous. Chan noted that they want to get rid of their people and take over the numerical superiority. He, of course, assumed that the heir would decide to act first, but did not think so soon. The father said that since they had already taken out the weapon, there should be no doubt. It is necessary to take from the enemy not only his life, but also his soul. Even if he has to lose his hand, the enemy can unexpectedly strike from any side, so you need to be prepared for anything. Suddenly, his son stopped him and said that he seemed to understand what they wanted to do. The demonic forest plans to strike at the departed warriors in order to take the numerical superiority. Aren't they going to prevent this? Meeting the heir of Murip helped him look at himself in a new way. He also learned something. The father said that it is necessary to take from the enemy not only his life, but also his soul, even if he has to lose his own hand. When a plan that is supposed to be ideal fails, disappointment sets in. But all is not lost when there is a plan B. They need to abandon the branch warriors. The young man then added that even with such a loss, they were still superior to the enemy. Devil Flower is a special forces unit of the Demon Forest. Its commander is Kei Yapjin. The young man greeted the head of the Taizan chamber, Cho Penshon, and reported that the warriors were divided into 10 groups. The man thanked him for his efforts at such a late hour. The guy replied that this goes without saying, because a battle awaits them ahead. However, by what destinies he is here? The head replied that even though he resigned, no one should sit idly by. Suddenly, a ward ran up to them and said that the order had been given to follow a secret path to the shelter. The man stated that everything is already beginning, which means that good luck accompanies everyone. Looking at the neutralized opponents, Mugan said that this was an excellent job. They're finally done with these bugs. Now their people are safe, which means it's time to take action. After which he ordered everyone to be distributed into their units. Later they will meet at the appointed place. When they set off, the head noted that he knew that he had not wasted his time. The sacred technique of Irin, snow flow, can only be mastered by women. There is no such technology as Murip in their clan. Looks like he was trained by someone else. After which he shouted that if it's hard for him, let him speak, because there is time. The guy replied that we need to stop here. The man asked what was the matter. Wasn't he the one who suggested striking the enemy army? The young man replied that this was just Plan B. The uncle was surprised why he did not choose Plan A. Our hero replied that when he went to the central regiment before the meeting, 3 spies were hiding nearby. However, they only caught 2. In other words, information could have leaked out. 3 people are not enough to keep track of everything on the central balcony. There are enemy mercenaries inside too. This man is one of those who attended the recent meeting. Among them, there is a rat. Mugan exclaimed that this could not be. The leadership has faithfully served the clan for decades. Murip replied that apparently the starting point was the capture of the Northwest. Since only 3 were assigned to surveillance, it means that among them there was a more proven spy. I thought to myself that Chon Hwagi then asked him about who was responsible for the disappearance of their superiors. His decisive answer looked like he didn't even suspect the demonic forest from the very beginning. His abilities were only seen by Daha and the head of Cholsa. Yu was removed from an important position, so his candidacy is no longer necessary. He intimidated the leader of Cholsa so much that he would definitely no longer join the Great Blade. Despite all this, the first thing Chon Hwagi thought of was him, who was beaten by thugs from the Wicked Way. Somehow this is illogical, after which he said that during the meeting he spoke about Plan B, since he had previously assumed the presence of an internal spy. If there had not been a mercenary among them, they would have continued to act on it. But now we have to switch to A. The man sighed heavily and asked what needed to be done. The young man replied that since only 2 were not caught, the third had already left to transmit information to the enemy. The head of the Black Soul Squad, Chivarin, added that in this case the enemy could surround them. But our hero objected that they would not come. The man exclaimed, "Does he really mean that the enemy will not save his people?" Chin noted to himself that those who like to work with their heads will not want to deviate from their plans. Chon Hwagi definitely hopes that they will dance to his tune. He said out loud that he mentioned the secondary plan during the meeting in order to gain numerical superiority. But if the Northwestern clans take the blow, they will remain in the minority. Mugen asked if he was hinting that the enemy would abandon their allies and attack the Northwest. Our hero replied that Vagi would do just that. From the heir of the Great Blade and his father, who are only pursuing their own gain, this can certainly be expected. The man muttered that they could not abandon the Northwestern clans because they had gone over to their side. It is necessary to go to their aid now. The young man replied that he was saying everything correctly. It's time to put the last piece of the puzzle together. Meanwhile, the Devil Flower Squad was advancing in the northeast. Suddenly, they encountered the head of Uarim, who said that they needed to go back. The situation in Chongqing has changed. The head ordered to immediately return to the Central Regiment. They will find out the details on the spot. A little earlier, our hero reported that there was a rat among them. The guys couldn't believe their ears. Murip added that everyone who was present at today's meeting comes under suspicion. Let the troops stop where he says. Some of them, when they find out that plans have changed, will fall into a stupor 100%. Let them keep a close eye on everyone. The head of Urim really hoped that it was not Commander Cho Yanhil. It will be too much of a disappointment. Meanwhile, the head of the Mayan department, Yem Chongun, asked in surprise why they had to come back for no reason at all. Not even an hour had passed since they set off. What could have happened during this time? Sanhogan replied that he himself did not know the details. They will explain the situation upon return. The man replied that he understood everything. Now they will take a breath and move on. After which he shouted to his squad that they were now taking a short break and returning to the clan. The old man mentally addressed him and asked that, please, it was not him. After some time, the man thought about what else to go back. What kind of bullshit is this? Then he went up to the tree and, sighing heavily, did some manipulations. The mercenary, who was nearby, immediately approached him and began to reach for the note he had left. But suddenly, the commander of the secret detachment of the demonic forest, Van Sol, appeared, abruptly cut off his hand, and shouted that he was a spy. He needs to be captured and interrogated. But the man said that they would never wait for this. Then he bit into something in his mouth. When he fell to the ground unconscious, the guys stated that he had deadly poison in his mouth. Picking up the note from the ground, the commander stated that it turns out these words were true. I can't believe it, but we just have to see for ourselves. After reading what was written there, the guys said that he hoped it was a lie, but their immediate superior turned out to be a traitor. At this time, the old man asked if Yem Chongun had everything ready. The man replied that yes, but he did not see his squad. Immediately behind, the commander's voice was heard, saying that they were here. He had that same note in his hands. After which he shouted why he was conducting secret correspondence with the enemy. The man began to mutter something incomprehensible and try to get out, saying that there was a simple misunderstanding. The elder asked how long ago he betrayed them. Yem shouted that this was someone's evil scheme against him. Chongun has been serving the demonic forest for 40 years. Does some piece of paper really inspire more confidence in him than his many years of devotion to the clan? The teacher shouted at him to shut his mouth. Why did you act so stupidly? He sold the honor of his subordinates and comrades for his own profit. Yem realized that this was the end, so he replied that the leaky ship began to sink, little by little, and the mast broke. Becoming a hero or a traitor is walking on the edge of a cliff. If you fail, you will remain an enemy, and if you hide carefully, you will become a hero of the Great Blade. The old man said that according to the rules, the traitor will be executed on the spot. The man replied that he did not blame him. Let him just do it. When the teacher did the necessary, he thought that it was worth finding out about his family. After some time, everyone returned to the northern forest, which was the temporary shelter of the demonic forest. The guy grabbed his head and said that he couldn't believe that the head of Yen turned out to be a spy. The head of Urim said that they needed to pull themselves together, otherwise they could undermine the morale of the soldiers. Suddenly Deha appeared, who said that he was doing the work that the heir had entrusted to him. Just recently, 5 fire arrows were fired. As our hero said, the Great Blade attacked the northwest. The man was surprised that Murup's assumptions seemed true. Is this really the same infirmity who was beaten by the Cholsa gang? The head of the demonic forest said that since he had been in charge of everything until now, he would first listen to Chin's opinion. The guy asked if there was news about the head of the Great Blade. Yu replied that after the arrows were launched, all the caretakers gathered together, but no one saw the head. The young man muttered that, judging by the fact that the old man did not appear, most likely he was in his palace. Due to the battle in the northwest, there was probably almost no one in the palace. You need to grab the chapter right now. Mogan said that they cannot abandon the northwest after siding with them. If the Great Blade clan is empty, then you need to occupy the enemy's military camp and cut off the leader's head. You need to hurry to save all your allies. Deha reported that he had found a path that was not guarded by anyone. Let him lead them through. The young man mentally addressed his subordinates and asked them to hold out for just 1 more hour. Meanwhile, the head of the Great Blade, Chon Byun, turned to the head that hung opposite him and said that the sky is very beautiful right now, isn't it? The man thought to himself how ruthless he was. For the slightest offense, he cut off the head of a high-ranking official. Hvagi said that it was time to prepare. He promises his father to burn the demonic forest to the ground. But suddenly, troops of the demonic forest, led by their commander-in-chief, burst into them. The head of the Great Blade hissed that if he had not been his offspring, he would also have been left without a head. Next came the voice of our hero, who turned to Chon and said that he was glad to see him. Wasn't that their promise? 800 soldiers of the Demon Forest's main force arrived safely at the Great Blade clan. Vagi couldn't understand why he was here. Why is this guy not in the branch now? At what point did everything go wrong? Our hero stated that he seemed to be wondering when everything went wrong. Murup thought that Chon would be a more interesting type. Cho stated that he and Byun had not seen each other for a long time. He wanted to see him, but he still didn't accept his invitation, so he decided to visit on his own. The man replied that he had nothing against it. If he had not come here, he would have had to look for him himself. To himself, he thought that the enemy had surrounded them. With the exception of the Ronin, there were only 100 fighters left in the clan. Judging by the increasing screams outside, the remaining opponents will soon arrive here. Then he grabbed his head and exclaimed that he did not think that he would encounter something like this in his own house. The son grabbed the sword and said that he would make a way for them. They can change the whole situation if they get to the northwest. The subordinate stated that it was worth starting before the pressure became even stronger. After that, they began to act, and Vagi shouted for his father not to go far from him. The head of the demonic forest immediately decided to get involved, who told Chin to leave the head to him. The man realized that the most interesting thing was about to begin, but it was fortunate that they were in an advantageous position. One only has to say in Murim the nickname Chon Byun, the sacred sword of Sichuan, to understand how difficult the opponent is. However, the demonic sword of destruction named Cho Mugan is a figure that is no less famous. Who will win? Realizing that the situation was heating up, the young man decided to use his secret technique. But in time, the voice of a subordinate was heard, who told him to come to his senses. You can't even think about using it. If you're not sure that you can kill all the witnesses, it is better to die yourself. At this time, shouts were heard around that it was necessary to block their escape route. You can't let the enemy go. Our hero had already noticed that he was going to use his secret technique. At first I thought it was his imagination, but it was not so. I would like to take a closer look at it. Uncle entered into a fight with the head of the Great Blade. This is a situation called hit or miss. The loser will lose absolutely everything. Chon Hwagi and the Ronin formed a circle. If they don't keep track, they will be able to get to their uncle. First of all, it is necessary to deal with Mug Impi, and in general, where did Deha go? Noticing that Yu was trembling and looking around, the guy shouted not to think about his allies. His task is to eliminate Mug Impe. The young man noted that the air was right. There is no doubt in such a situation, because it can cost a lot. Then he rushed to attack his opponent, shouting that the last minutes of his life had come. Chin stated that he knew so. The rest of the Ronin's eyes immediately darted back and forth, after which he told Nerim and Urim that these were all the warriors who remained in the clan. Let them take half the army with them and go to the aid of the Northwest. He'll catch up when he finishes here. Finally, the old man told the commander of the Black Soul Detachment not to leave the air until he completed the battle. Meanwhile, our hero noted that there was some strangeness in the movement of the head of the Great Blade. It's like something is missing. It feels like he's deliberately avoiding the most effective movements. Then, something dawned on the young man, and he shouted to his subordinate that there was some work available for him. Then he threw him some kind of keychain and told him to give it to the Manhwa department. The man replied that he would do everything in the best possible way. I thought to myself that I was sure that the heir had given such an order for a reason. When he threw this thing to whoever needed it, the recipient could not understand what to do with it. Then he returned to report on the completed task to our hero, but he was not there. Meanwhile, Mugen shouted at Chom to give up, because he had nowhere to run, and victory was theirs. The man grabbed his son by the scruff of the neck and pulled him to his side. Then he shouted that he was not going to give up, only through his corpse. The head of the demonic forest exclaimed that he was simply disgusting, since he was making a shield out of his own child. The father looked at his son and hissed that at least now he should prove that he is useful. After these words, unexpectedly, the head of the Great Blade began to try to run away. In his mind, he thought that he believed that he could at least injure this head of the demonic forest. Although no, nothing is over yet. It is necessary to reach their forces from the northwest. But suddenly he felt a strong energy and saw our hero. After which, he came to the conclusion that this was the heir of his enemy. Byun then noted that the guy came alone and asked if he was really that fearless. The young man asked the question, which of them is truly fearless, a young man or a man? He wondered how a clan with a history of just over 10 years was able to take dominance over all of Chungking at once. But now he understands what it's all about. Feeling an incredible cold, the man asked who he was and where he came from. Chin replied that it didn't matter. At this point, it was time to take the 1,000 sharp blades flowing sky technique from him. Meanwhile, the heir to the Great Blade recalled his father's words that he needed to prove his usefulness. The head of the demonic forest could not understand what he was doing. Did he really decide to give up his life for his dad? after which he ordered the head of Havanma to set foot to the northwest, and he would try to join as soon as possible. The man asked him to be careful. He leaves him a detachment of black souls. Mugen then looked at Vagi and stated that it was a reverse circulation. So I decided to hide my ace up my sleeve. Let the young man forgive him. But he's not the only one who has such abilities. Seeing a bright cold light, Deha became distracted and began to look in that direction to understand what was happening there. He was immediately attacked by an enemy who shouted at where he was staring. "You can't be distracted during a fight." The young man shouted that his heir was in danger, but he didn't give a damn. The man said that he would not spend much time on him. Let him generally say thank you for the fact that he is not fighting at full strength. In a surprise blow, you told him not to rush to celebrate the victory. He has already analyzed all his movements. He noted to himself that it was only thanks to Murab that he managed to defeat him in no time. The young man hopes that his deceased rival will be lucky enough to meet a good owner in his next life. Mugen's voice came from behind, stating that they both managed quickly. The guy used reverse circulation. What did his father teach him? In the end, the heir was killed by his own energy. He can't believe that the guy sacrificed himself for trash like his father. He then turned to the Great Blade Warriors and told them to listen to him. Their leader has escaped, and the heir and Ronin Mug Impi are dead. The man does not want to continue this senseless bloodshed. Therefore, he asks to put down the weapon and surrender. Within a short period of time, all the warriors laid down their weapons and knelt before the head of the demonic forest. This was their victory. Mugen thought to herself that now all that was left was to protect the northwest. Half the squad has already gone there, so there shouldn't be any problems. When they learn about what happened there, those enemies will probably also surrender. The head of the demonic forest could not believe that this solemn moment had finally arrived. This is all thanks to his nephew. By the way, where did the young man go? Meanwhile, Biyun asked what his true face was. How does the heir of the demonic forest know the Blade Star technique? Our hero recalled a story about the most terrible war in the entire history of Murim. Celestial Battle. The teacher said that probably the most brutal battle was the Battle of the 8 Stars from the Alliance of Heavenly Saviors. Noticing his questioning look, the master said that, yes, he means those who master his techniques. If a person has not lost fear, he will stop. But if suddenly a guy sees someone who uses his techniques, you should never leave him alone. Then he replied that Mon Yen, nicknamed the Blade Star, was the first of the 8 stars to die. It was he who first drove the sacred dragon into a dead end. His son's movements seemed extremely strange to him, until among them I noticed traces of the technique of 1,000 sharp blades of the flowing sky. If Biyun had mastered the Blade Star technique, it would now be clear how he managed to take over Chungking in just 10 years. The man shouted that he questioned who he was. The young man ignored this question and asked who else besides him knew the techniques of the 8 stars. The man shouted at him not to make him repeat himself. Let him answer his question first. Murab stated that it means he doesn't want to open his mouth. The man is right. The head cannot have a long tongue. Then she activated the 8 heavens of shining deity technique and added that perhaps he would regret not answering. The enemy at first did not understand how close combat techniques could help him in this situation, until a powerful attack came at him. The great Blade Master couldn't believe that this was the Star Palm technique, the elusive palm of one of the 8 stars, after which he shouted that he didn't know where he knew such techniques, but did he really think that he could make him stop with some cheap trick? Meanwhile, the head of the Black Detachment was searching for our hero. He didn't understand where he managed to go. It's his mistake. It was necessary to be more careful. Suddenly, in the distance, he heard some sounds and decided to look from the tree to see what was happening there. After all, there shouldn't be anyone where they come from. Meanwhile, Chin was thinking that this was not the same Biyun who fought with his uncle. Apparently, he realized that there was no longer any point in hiding his strength. After his last technique, he, on the contrary, closed the distance between them. Is there a reason for his self-confidence? Activating the shooting star technique, the opponent shouted, which was quite an empty boast. The young man asked if he was sure it was empty, after which he began to deftly dodge all attacks. While the opponent tried to attack from behind again, our hero thought that, judging by the fact that he owned a shooting star, he had already learned half of it. After making another blow, the opponent asked who taught him the palm star technique. The guy replied that there were too many questions from someone who would soon die. It would be better if he answered him. How does the head of the great blade know the technique of the 1,000 sharp blades of the flowing sky? Byun didn't understand why he was getting even closer. There is a significant amount of recovery time required between using palm techniques. If there was a dragon in front of him, the strongest warrior in the world, then it would be understandable, but it's unlikely that some heir of the demonic forest would be able to regenerate his strength in no time. The young man said, "Does he really think that this is all that Murip owns?" Even if Chan has recognized the absolute teaching of sacred techniques, without talent, he is of no use. After which he delivered a series of powerful blows from 1,000 mundane hands and a sickle-shaped fist. The enemy was on the verge of losing consciousness. He couldn't understand how this guy knew such techniques. The young man exclaimed that he would stop being a fool. One guy from the Hwanhee River survived a blow much more powerful than this. Byun thought to himself that he was avoiding powerful attacks in order to continue striking. He can withstand pain if the energy pathways are protected, but the problem is that yin energy even penetrates into the bones. It seems clear what's going on here. The air is endowed with heavenly yin. Now, the man will allow him to be hit, since he needs to catch his breath at least a little. But the young man's attack was so powerful that he was thrown back some distance. The head believed that now he had time to restore his energy a little, until he noticed that the guy was quickly rushing towards him. Our hero stated that he was obviously surprised how the young man ended up here so quickly. Palm and fist techniques are not everything. There is also a step technique, after which our hero used the technique of the heavenly step of the frightening spirit of war, which could be considered a killing blow. The head of the great blade could not stand it and shouted again who he was. Let him explain. Murip mysteriously replied that the original, unlike it, was a cheap fake. Why is he lying on the ground like a dog? Let him finally admit defeat and give up. But the opponent just flew into a complete rage and hissed that he didn't care who he was. Now the guy will be killed at any cost. The young man stated that this was reverse circulation. Apparently, he didn't care what roots the technicians had. Byun stated that, being from Murim, he would put everything on the line to take him to hell with him. Our hero noted that this is blood flowing from 7 holes and dangerous energy. Judging by his desperate actions, he was prepared to die. Energy confrontation takes a lot of inner strength. One blow of the fist will not achieve anything. Perhaps it is worth using one of the techniques. The thoughts were interrupted by the voice of a man who shouted for the heir to attack. This will be their last fight. But something dawned on the young man, so he simply turned around and began to run away. As he realized that Byun himself would die calmly, the head of the great blade became even more angry at this turn of events and screamed for this little rat to go back to his place. Then he started running after him and shouting what a warrior he was after that. Let him become and continue to fight. The guy retorted how he could listen to a man who abandoned his son to certain death and ran away himself. Apparently, someone like him has no concept of family. The young man thought to himself that he was not a fool to fight someone who would ultimately kill himself. Moreover, restrictions are now imposed on it. In the battle with his uncle, Buin received internal injuries. Therefore, it is enough to run with him for about half an hour. The main thing is to attract his attention to you. We must keep the dog on a short leash so that it does not reach the people of the demonic forest. Suddenly, the voice of the commander of the Black Detachment was heard, who shouted that he had come to his aid, after which he climbed in front of our hero and took a powerful blow upon himself. The difference in strength was simply enormous. The young man realized that the help that had suddenly arrived needed to be saved, so he used the elusive palm technique. The ward was simply taken aback by what his master was capable of, because he did not expect it at all. Then Marip approached him and told him to move aside, but the guy objected that it was dangerous. The demonic forest cannot lose a person who will give the clan a bright future. The man was immediately glad that he had finally been caught. Now he won't constantly run away from him and die. When the sword appeared in Chin's hands, Byun asked where he got it from. The young man retorted, did he really think that Murip was carrying him around like a keychain? The opponent only learned 1,000 Flowing Sky Blade Island, didn't he? When our hero attacked him, the enemy thought to himself that this was impossible. He changed his movements even before the swords collided. The young man has skillful energy management and lightning-fast swings that are not so easy to dodge. When asked if this is the final part of 1,000 sharp blades of the flowing sky, Murip replied that it is the one he does not have. If the head of the Great Blade thought he was somehow special, he was very mistaken. The head of the detachment noted to himself that he did not see either his steps or the movement of the sword. Is it really the same heir they knew? Qin revealed that he was born with the celestial yin trait, so everything inside him begins to become covered in ice when the power is used incorrectly. However, by taking the heavenly yang pill, he was able to restrain the excessive flow of yin energy. Probably in his head, all this looks like a gift from God, but for him, it is nothing more than a curse. Now he sees in front of him a dummy who is trying to take control of all of Chungking, even without mastering the full-fledged technique of 1,000 sharp blades of the sky under construction. Doesn't he think it's stupid? Byun replied that he understood. A monster who masters the sword, fist, and palm star technique. There is only one answer here. This is the head of the clan of 8 emperors. Let him admit whether the guy is his student. Our hero replied that the tip was on his tongue. If it were up to him, he would have found his corpse and burned it. And who is he to say if a man answers his question? Since he doesn't care, Chon should be in the know. You can reveal your cards for the last time, where he mastered 1,000 sharp blades of the flowing sky. The man asked who else dares to teach this technique, if not the head of the 8 emperors. Murip asked if he personally taught him. I thought to myself that the sword star Monyon died at the hands of the sacred dragon at Mount Mudan, right before the start of the war. If he was his follower, it is clear how he survived the battle in heaven. But the man replied that he did not serve the clan of the 8 emperors, but the Ball Star. His dream was to defeat the sacred dragon and take over the entire world using his techniques. The guy asked if the head of the 8 emperors would have lost the war if someone like him could defeat the dragon. How can you be so stupid? The head of the Great Blade has a very pathetic end indeed. The surviving followers of the clan of 8 emperors, who painted the earth scarlet. Those who opposed the war gathered under the banner of Sanshon, and others, like Byun, live hiding their true face. Despite the fact that 30 years have passed since the battle in heaven, those wishing to take revenge for past grievances still visit the valley from Mirim. Suddenly, our hero did not feel very well, and he noted that he seemed to have gone too far. When asked if everything was okay with him, the young man replied that everything was fine. Let him stand on his own. Looking at how the heir was regaining his strength, the head of the detachment thought that he could not believe that he was stronger than Chon himself. It turns out that all this time he was hiding his abilities. Surely there was some reason for him pretending to be a weakling and letting the Cholsa gang beat him up. He swears to the heir to keep his mouth shut. The guy noted that this time he managed to restore the energy balance much faster. There is a possibility that very soon he will be able to remove the restriction and make both energies part of himself. When the sun had already risen, the young man said to grab the corpse, because it was time to put an end to this war. The war, surprisingly, ended without a hitch. Everything went like clockwork. The goal of the Northwestern leadership was not victory, but survival. The reinforcements from the demonic forest managed to reach their destination on time. However, after the enemies saw the head of their leader, they immediately dropped their weapons. This was an unconditional victory for the demonic forest. After more than 10 years, the battle for control of Chunking has finally drawn the curtain. The next day, Murip asked how things were going. Deha replied that the prisoners had been collected and the Northwest leadership was dealing with the victims. Due to the very short history of the Great Blade, the prisoners are mostly Ronin, or warriors of the fallen clans. The young man stated that Muginpi had gathered all sorts of rabble over all this time. Yu thought to herself that, in the end, the heir kept his word. He is truly an outstanding person. After which he said that he would like to express my respect to him, because he did a brilliant job. Can he ask one question? His intention to take over Chunking eventually became a reality. What is his next goal? Think a little. The young man mysteriously replied that he would fulfill what everyone longs for, namely, the most powerful force of Sichuan. The foundation in the form of Chunking has already been laid, and everything else will be dealt with gradually, until the day comes when the demonic forest returns to its former glory. True, this is not a matter of one day. Suddenly, the commander of the Black Soul Squad, Chi Varin, reported that the head of the clan was looking for him. The guy promised not to wag his tongue about what happened, so he had to hang a significant portion of noodles on his uncle's ears regarding the death of the head of the Great Blade. He made up a fairy tale in which he was saved by some mysterious martial artist. Although, on the other hand, there is some truth in it, since the Chin type is really mysterious. After a short period of time, our hero entered the room and asked if he had been called, after which he noted that even people from the Northwest came to them. Someone exclaimed that, after all, it was worth celebrating the victory over the Great Blade. Mugen added that he did a great job. They resolved some issues here with the Northwest. The man reported that they managed to get 3 million silver coins from the Great Blade. Of this money, he, sir, donated 1 million for the restoration of the Northwest. They vow to never forget his kindness and courtesy. Our hero noted to himself that the decision was not easy. It is clear why the head of the Sokka clan is so happy, after which he stated that the conversation had been successful. For what reason was he called here in the first place? The head of the demonic forest replied that he wanted to reward him for his services. This was the order given by the father. Unfolding the scroll, the man began to read what he, the current head of the Cho Mugen Demon Forest, announced as follows. The exploits of the heir Chin Murip had a tremendous impact on the future of their clan. This result was born of his exceptional selflessness. According to the order of the previous head of the demonic forest, from now on he is appointed commander of the Shining Dragon Squad. This is an independent detachment that does not have a physical point, which will henceforth carry out only its orders. Looking at his expression, the old man thought to himself that the gentleman was reading out the order for his appointment. He understands that the guy is confused, but please don't forget about the formalities. Mugen continued that he was giving him the command seal and a sword of silver light. Let him not forget his duty and be devoted to the detachment. The head of Urim said that this sword has special symbolism. His mother used it. The silver light sword was the only thing his grandfather couldn't get rid of after breaking up with his daughter. Moreover, during her lifetime, his mother was a member of the Shining Dragon Squad. At the age of 16, she eliminated 3 enemy forces from Mount Ken. The uncle added that for which she was subsequently appointed vice commander of the Shining Dragon Detachment, which at that time was led by his elder brother. Everyone in the demonic forest was proud of them. Let him accept the will of the deceased for the further prosperity of the detachment. Our hero replied that he listened and obeyed. Mugen thought to himself that prosperity is, of course, good, but most likely his father wanted Murip to win the love of others. The head of Urim reported that the detachment's overnight accommodation was prepared in a tent of peaceful light, which is located in the southwestern part of the Central Regiment. They congratulate him on becoming commander of the Shining Dragon. The head of Nerim whispered in his ear that maybe it was still worth mentioning the composition of the squad, but he replied that he was sure that the air would cope. Already on the street, Deha said that the commander of the Black Soul Squad said that the composition of his squad was slightly unusual. Chin asked, I mean, is there really a real lizard there? The guy replied that, as far as he knows, these people previously served in the Great Blade. They occupied command positions. They went to investigate the disappearance, but by the time they returned, the Great Blade had been defeated and all units had been disbanded. Most likely, those people are extremely hostile, and the main reason for the fall of their clan is Murip. Our hero stated that, in other words, they were deprived of bread, and now they were also forced to work for him. He noted to himself that these were strong warriors who had accepted defeat from the demonic forest. If you put such people in commanding positions of their clan, undesirable people will certainly appear. Is he really the only one capable of reining them in? After which, he said that there was no need to worry. It was time to get to know them. When the young man opened the doors, he noted that he didn't know any of them, but they looked quite menacing. The former commander in the Great Blade clan, the master of the lightning sword, Pun Yen, asked if he was the heir. The young man replied that it was spot on. He's an outstanding strategist and a real sweetheart, which concentrated enemy forces by stealing leadership. He changed the military situation, winning over the northwestern clans to his side. He won the mind games against Chonvagi and wiped out the Great Blade from the face of the earth. The guy suggests leaving the past in the past. They are now part of the demonic forest. Then the young man sat down on a chair and declared with confidence in his voice that he was asking these newcomers to love him and favor him. The Shining Dragon Squad was disbanded for a long time. Because of this, the building was quite shabby, and now they have to live here. So let them carry rags and go ahead and restore order. Suddenly, the guys replied that they were obeying, and began to distribute among themselves who would do what. Our hero noted, wow, how flexible they are. Deha responded that despite the outrage, they simply had no choice. Once you've given up, you'll have to prove your worth. The young man noted to himself that he didn't give a damn about their past achievements. People like them must be treated more strictly than usual. Most of the prisoners joined various organizations of the demonic forest. It's good that he was assigned here. There is no need to worry too much about anything. Yu said that the man with the bucket's name was Pun Yen. He is better known by his nickname, Lightning Sword. Judging by his appearance, he is a guy with character. That thug, Hangen, is skilled in the art of the single-edged sword. Both led their squads in the Great Blade. That tall guy named Chu Cho is a first-class spear master. Hu Yen is an excellent archer of short stature who has proven himself in battle. This guy's name is Chon Yu, and he uses a stick to fight. Despite such a young age, they were all considered elite. They would have suffered huge losses if not for his plan. The young man stated that now he will have to re-educate them. Let him tell them not to overexert themselves. Deha noted that it was unexpected to hear such a thing from him. Didn't he plan to treat them strictly? The guy replied that he was fed up with everything. Let them rest a little. If we talk about educating those types, he has already instructed someone to do this. Let him tell you if something happens while he goes for a walk. Meanwhile, the guys thought that now their current leader would be the man who caused the victory of the demonic forest. How did they manage to fall under the subordination of this type? Hu Yen retorted that it was useless to blame others, since the Great Blade fell because of them. Hangen was indignant. Why is this suddenly? In fact, he fought with all his might. The young man asked, did the others suffer from nonsense? He certainly didn't fight better than him. The guy told the half-baked shooter to shut his mouth. Suddenly, someone sharply hit the young man on the head, and he was indignant at who dared to do this. And when I turned around, I saw the very responsible person in the attack on the northwest. When the young man shouted what this monster was doing here, Yen Chu replied that he would now be their overseer. Does the guy really not know about respect? When asked what kind of respect we are talking about, the young man asked why he swears in front of his elders. Deha, who heard all this, sighed heavily and thought to himself that this is actually called subordination. The thug objected that, in fact, they were the same age. The guy replied that there was no need to drive him away. Compared to this dwarf, he is generally an old man, after which he turned to the bald guy, called him a monk, and asked in surprise whether these two were really the same age. When he objected that, in fact, he was not a monk, the young man grabbed him by the head and asked why he shaved his head. He replied that he didn't shave anything, his hair just fell out. The young man stated that he simply has a real talent for pissing people off. Meanwhile, Murup saw the writing on the wall. Eternal glory to the forest, the strongest in Sichuan, written by order of the commander. Apparently, this was left over from its predecessors. Then he mentally turned to his mother and asked if she was looking at him. Her son became the commander of the Shining Dragon. At the moment, the Shining Dragon squad consists of 53 people. He appointed the experienced Deha, who was the former commander of the Black Blade squad, as vice commander, and Yen Chu as defender. None of the rank and file opposed those 5 becoming subgroup commanders. This result was obvious due to their past positions: single-edged sword, double-edged sword, bow, spear, stick are the 5 types of weapons used in the 8 Heavens soul art. An unexpected turn. This 5 will clearly be useful. After thinking a little, the young man ordered the first group to step forward 2 steps. The commander of the first sub-team of the Shining Dragon Squad, Pun Yen, said that they were waiting for further instructions. Murup told Chu that his task was to fight the first subgroup. When asked how long they could be beaten, the guy replied that he didn't know. The main thing was not to kill anyone. The ward immediately began to run towards them and shout that the air had just allowed them to be crippled. The guy immediately slapped him in the face and exclaimed that he didn't say that. The bully immediately lost interest and said that he didn't play like that. It would be better to entrust this to Deha then. But our hero objected that he was a weakling. The young man hissed that he could handle it. I thought to myself that it was clear that from the very beginning he was going to give this task to him. Pon Yen wondered if the commander was joking for an hour. What kind of circus is going on now? Chin replied that he was absolutely serious. Their vice commander was made by Nepalese. How he, in his opinion, then Mugimp dunked. Then they began to fight. Deha thought to himself that in the Great Blade, Pun was considered one of the best fighters. Even in a one-on-one battle, he's not an easy opponent. You can use his own subordinates against him. Therefore, when the young man began to approach him, you immediately put his ward in front of him. The guy was indignant that he had no pride at all. Let him fight honestly. The young man defiantly asked if pride alone would help him win. If a man wants to achieve something, sometimes he has to wallow in the dirt. Our hero said that he should be replaced when he is exhausted. The same must be done with the remaining subgroups. When asked how long they can be mocked, Murup answered until they beg for mercy, and so on, every day. That very day marked the beginning of the killing training of the Shining Dragon Squad. When Chu entered the battle, the squad members had to take up weapons, squeezing out all their strength. However, they were never able to relocate the one who single-handedly protected the Cholsa gang. After several days, all of them forgot what pride is. And a month later, at the crossroads of summer and autumn, the head of the demonic forest assigned the detachment the first task. After some time, our hero came to the meeting room of the demonic forest and greeted its head. The man said that he talked with the head of Narim before he arrived and asked how he liked his squad. The guy replied that he would say he would go. Mugan said that these warriors previously held important positions in the Great Blade. Their pride can make them difficult to deal with. The young man replied that he was right. I thought to myself why he was beating around the bush. Has something really happened? Suddenly, the man said that he would like to talk about the upcoming mission, which, most likely, would be extremely difficult. His wife's family is now in Pajun district, which takes about 10 days to reach. The family is small, but Rodchon is well known to everyone there. Then, The head of the demonic forest added that it was necessary to find his father-in-law and brother-in-law who had disappeared. The teacher added that there are all sorts of rumors circulating. Some say that this is the work of Sanchum, while others suspect the Sura of the bloody sky and the demon of madness. The guy noted to himself that things were bad. The last two refer to the three great villains. But since Sanchon is also despised, with him comes four great evils. The head of Nerim added that if there really are three evils involved here, he should not hesitate to ask for help. Despite their inhumane deeds, their strength is practically no match for the 10 strongest warriors. In the process of transmitting the teachings of the demonic forest, he realized that Murup was absorbing new knowledge at a brilliant speed. However, this is not enough to fight with real martial artists. Therefore, this task is more aimed at collecting information. The young man replied that then they would set off right now. We'll have to hurry, since it's unclear whether the missing people are alive or not. After some time, Chin turned to his ward and said that they had too little information about Murim. Let him find out with the others about the Sichuan masters, conflicts and weaknesses if possible. The commander of the secret detachment, So Jinwan, clarified whether he should actually guard it. The young man replied that there was no need to worry. Yen Chu will handle this. He is, of course, stupid, but not completely retarded. Then asked if there was any news about Manhwa. But the mercenary replied that not yet, he was all busy with business and worries. Sanchon includes all the world's mountains and rivers. However, those who have been engaged in robbery for several decades will not change at the snap of a finger. They pursue the goal of coexistence with Murim. At such an important time, everyone who gets in the way gets rid of them, and the useful workforce is pushed forward. All this time, Sanchon did not touch anyone and maintained good relations with the demonic forest. Why drag them in here now? The next day, Punyen said that they had been enduring this bullying for a month. My whole body is already aching. The brute replied that he was slowly starting to get used to it. When asked how Chan Yu was feeling, he replied that he was grateful that he could simply live. The young man said that he would not like to die here. He had plans to open a small shop after the service. Huyen asked to pay attention to the jewelry his sister gave him. He promised to bring her new clothes if he returned. Han Jin protested for them to wake up. It's just training. The defender and vice commander are not going to kill them. Suddenly, our hero opened the door with his feet and shouted that this garbage should be collected quickly, since it was necessary to go out. Slapping everyone in the face, the guy shouted that they needed to collect their belongings since they were going to Pajun. There's really no time, so let them move. After some time, a group of shining dragons from the demonic forest set off on a hike. Murup said he was told the journey would take 10 days, but they would get there in 6. Let them make sure that no one lags behind. 6 days later, the girls were discussing that they had heard that the demonic forest had destroyed the Great Blade and regained its primacy. At one time, they were considered the strongest. Looks like they won't be broken that easily. According to rumors, the plan for victory was invented by the heir of the demonic forest. Does the lady wonder how he managed to crush the Great Blade? The disciple of the divine sword, the beautiful flower, Tanreva, replied that they would soon find out about everything themselves. The ward asked what she meant. The girl replied that the demonic forest was the matchmakers of the Chan clan. They can't not know what happened. Another muttered, if Lord Sanchon is involved, then they should contact the Flower Bell and wait for reinforcements. The mistress clarified whether she wanted to say that she was still no match for him. The ward objected that she was just worried about her. However, if the faceless Mountain King was involved in the incident, she wants to make sure of it. The girl clarified whether she was talking about the son of the head of the clan of the 8 emperors, who provoked the battle in heaven. The lady replied that according to the teacher, the warriors of the Silver Valley are stronger than the commanders of the middle clans. Even their flower bell could not withstand them without anyone's help. If the son of the head of the 8 emperors began to rule the Silver Valley, one cannot turn a blind eye to it. The girl asked if she remembered the rumors about a monster that sucks energy from opponents. They were also distributed by a company that was inferior to Sanchon. Maybe these are also empty rumors. Reva thought that there was logic in her words. Sanchon said it strives for coexistence with the rest of the world. After their appearance, the level of security for trade trips increased compared to what it was before. The true identity of their leader is unknown, but she does not think that they can start a bloody war. Therefore, she replied that she was also skeptical about all rumors, but even they should not be ignored. This is the task of their clan. Paying attention to how someone was racing on a horse, the girl noted that those warriors looked like they were not from here. Therefore, just in case, it is better to use a camouflage technique. Then they suddenly changed their faces and stated that even one of the 10 strongest warriors would not suspect anything. We drove past. Our hero paid attention to them, but didn't really see anything. They galloped past. The guy immediately asked if he had seen those two girls. Yen Chu replied that, yes, they are beauties. Murip then turned to Deha and said that it looks like they are going to Pajun. As soon as they reach the village, let them assign a couple of people to them. One of them is definitely under disguise, and this is somehow strange, so it's worth finding out. Yu was surprised. I mean, under the disguise, because he didn't feel anything like that. Murip replied that the skin texture was slightly off. This can only be done intentionally. Well, either there is a problem with the face itself. Moreover, both are excellent at hiding internal energy. When they entered the city, they began to be surprised that there was not a soul on the street. So quiet, as if robbers had visited. Our hero said that they will find out about this from the Chon family. When they arrive, let them let the horses rest and catch their breath. The guy wondered if the faceless Mountain King really was behind everything. Why then did Sanchon expand its area of influence to such a wilderness? Such actions somehow do not fit with the way Sanchon has existed until now. He bets that this is a joke from a mad demon. He heard that the faceless Mountain King was a little more cunning. Qin noted to himself that the faceless Mountain King is their commander anyway. But this is really strange. There is no one in this area who could spread rumors about him, and deserted streets indicate that kidnappings are taking place there or that a killer is walking around. Somehow he feels uneasy that Sanchon is being brought into the matter. The guards of the Choncha Hivi clan noted that, judging by their attire, they came from Chunking. Our hero replied that everything was correct. The Shining Dragon Squad arrived on the orders of the head of the demonic forest. The man said that they were waiting for them. However, the guys arrived a little earlier than expected. Let him escort him inside. The young man immediately said that all subgroups could rest, but for now he would go to see his aunt. On the way, the guard said that at the moment the lady was replacing the head of Chan. This is precisely why she has no way of returning to the demonic forest. Then he shouted that he had brought the commander of the Shining Dragon. Immediately, a woman's voice was heard saying, "Let him come in." The guys immediately introduced themselves and said that one was Chin Murip, and the second was the vice commander of the detachment, Yu Deha. Chan Inran said that she heard that they made a huge contribution to the battle between the demonic forest and the Great Blade. She is amazed at their courage. The right thing to do would have been to offer them some good tea, but due to the cessation of supplies, their situation worsened greatly. The guy said everything was fine. Plain water is enough. He was surprised that on the way to the estate he saw practically no people. The woman explained that they continued to find the bodies of their warriors. My father and brother were then returning back from the capital. 50 li from Pajun in the west is the Hollow of the Deep Soul. That's where people disappeared. They searched there, but it was unsuccessful. Due to the importance of the expedition, the trading company was accompanied by 20 elite warriors. Our hero replied that he was sure that the corpses left by the enemy meant something. Did she receive some kind of message? Mugen's wife replied that they had received it. When they had almost lost all hope of finding the missing alive, a corpse with a letter was delivered to the estate. 3 million silver pieces are required from them. The enemy asks to send a receipt with this amount. The young man noted that the handwriting was rough, but there was strength in the lines. If the author knows martial arts, then he has reached a decent level. Then he asked if the Chan family is so rich, because 3 million silver coins is a lot of money. The women replied that this was the state of their family for 10 years. The killers asked for something that they could not give, no matter how hard they tried. They said they would send one corpse a day until their demands were met. Our hero noted to himself that she was probably very scared. Aunt is quite a strong woman. After which he said that he surrenders. The kidnappers, like them, know that they do not have that kind of money. Most likely, they took into account the fact that the Chon clan and the demonic forest are matchmakers. However, those people made a huge mistake by contacting them. He makes a promise that the Shining Dragon Squad will return their people safe and sound. The woman wished them good luck and told them to let them know if they needed anything. Murip ordered Deha to gather all the commanders, as they would begin the search. When the young man opened the door, a little girl suddenly bumped into him. The little one noted that he used the hammer technique right in front of the heiress. Not bad. The guy asked what she was talking about and who she was. The little one stated that, judging by the fact that he did not know her name, he was some kind of nameless pawn. It was the only daughter of the head of the demonic forest, Cho Yurim, who said that she was the first beauty of Sichuan. Very soon, the whole world will lie at her feet. The young man wondered how such calm people were born with such a derisa. When asked where her front teeth had gone, the girl replied that she wanted to exchange them for treats. But it didn't work out. The guy noted that it was surprising that she was joking in such a situation. The baby objected that tears would not change anything. If she is sad, then the rest will be sad. Apparently, the young man is an heir from Chunking. What should we call him? Oppa or something? Murip replied that Henim. The little girl exclaimed that it was good. She was glad to meet you. They would definitely see each other again. Suddenly, our hero announced that they would be moving out in 2 hours. If this is not a simple kidnapping, but a hostage-taking, you need to act the same as during the incident with the branch. Since there are many hostages, it is unlikely that they are being held in Pajun. Otherwise, if someone escapes, the kidnappers will be identified immediately. A little later, he told everyone that they would comb all the villages in the Deep Soul Hollow area. You need to act secretly. The vice commander will be in charge. Let them check to see if any stranger has bought food recently. Let them find out everything related to food. The young man noted to himself that it was true, because the hostages needed to be fed with something. After which he asked the commander why not ambush the enemy in the city. Chin replied that the lives of the hostages could then be in danger. The option is good, but their primary task is to save the head of Chon and his son. Let them also remember to meet the hunters. It is necessary to find out whether someone found bones in the mountains and whether animals disappeared from traps. Deha thought to himself that there were no barriers in front of him. Maybe it's because his father is a hunter. At such moments, the guy becomes a completely different person. Murip added that one must remember that the main thing is not the execution of the kidnappers, but the rescue of the hostages. That's all. Let them get down to business. The thug said that the 2 girls the commander was talking about had just recently arrived here. He instructed the guards to follow them. Our hero immediately ordered Deha to stay with the subgroup commanders, and Yen Chu to go with him, since first he would have to meet with those girls. The ward reported that they said that they went into a tavern. Whether they eat something or not, they are drawn to drink. Suddenly, our hero felt powerful energy, so he immediately looked in the direction from which it came. The girl was amazed that he looked in her direction from such a distance. This can't be a coincidence. She can't believe that anyone other than their clan is able to sense the Death Cliff's shadow technique. While the girl was thinking that if this was not an accident, then this guy was dangerous, and it was necessary to quickly report everything to the mistress, the young man grabbed her and asked where she was going. Meanwhile, the disciple of the divine sword, the beautiful flower. Tanrenva was thinking that Sojong was delayed for some reason. Had something really happened? Suddenly, the voice of her ward was heard, who asked for forgiveness and said that she had been caught. The girl was taken aback that this couldn't happen. Even the 10 strongest warriors cannot recognize the Sojong technique. Shu asked if Mademoiselle would like to join them for dinner. Our hero asked why he was talking so strangely. He replied that Chin doesn't understand anything. Women like that. When they sat down at the table, the girl asked what was the matter. Our hero retorted that this was his question. He just came here for a drink. Then he turned to his subordinate and said that he could order whatever he wanted. Just have a glass. Then he turned again to the beautiful stranger and once again asked the question if they would keep them company. After some time, the lady broke the deathly silence and apologized for the persecution, because it was pure curiosity. Murup said that they came from the demonic forest to investigate the case of the disappearance of the Chan clan. Officially, he is the commander of the Shining Dragon Squad, but some call him the Heir. Renva noted that this is the one who came up with the plan to destroy the Great Blade. If it was not by chance that he recognized the Sojon technique, then everything is logical, because with such abilities, everything is quite possible. Chin said that now it's his turn. Why are they here? The girl replied that they wanted to make inquiries about the disappearance incident. When asked why they didn't visit the Chon estate then, the girl was indignant that it would be enough to interrogate her like a criminal. The young man replied that they were here to sort out the matter. It's normal to be suspicious of strangers. Tan said that he himself knows that they just arrived, so they are not killers. The young man looked at her carefully and said that they still didn't know the end of it. When there was deathly silence again, the girl said, "Okay." In truth, they want to meet a person who may be relevant to the case. Let them be allowed to see the enemy. They promise to cooperate. The girls do not know who the kidnapper is, but they are looking for a specific person. The main suspect, so to speak, namely the Faceless King. They must meet him. However, if he is not the culprit, then they will simply have to leave. There are rumors that he is the son of the deceased head of the 8 Emperors clan. They want to make sure they are true. Murup thought to himself, who even tells such nonsense? Then she asked what they were going to do if the rumors turned out to be true. When the lady replied that she would report to the top, of course, he asked where exactly the girls came from. Renve replied that they were from Lotus Peak, the 7th Unification Group. I noted to myself that it would be better to call my mother's clan. The young man noted to himself that this was a good attempt to make a fool of himself. The celestial battle ended a couple of decades ago, but some masters still secretly visit the Silver Valley. These included the 7th group, who stood on the side of the Flower Bell. He doesn't think they'll listen if he asks them to leave. It would be better to keep him close than to let him run wild. After which he said that, okay, there will be a meeting between them, but he plans all the strategies. Let them act according to his instructions for the safety of the hostages. Let them stay overnight at the Chan estate. You can come tomorrow morning, and he will warn the head in advance. The girl asked if she could ask for something then. Suddenly, the young man turned to her and replied that he could not. Although in theory, the reaction should have been different. The next day, the guard said welcome. He was told that they would arrive in the morning, so he would accompany them. Meanwhile, our hero noted that there was so much noise around. Had something happened? The woman explained that today a 6th corpse was discovered. The young man immediately said that he was sorry, but such things are not solved in one day. Mugen's wife replied that she understood, because the matter was not easy. The guy added that, nevertheless, thanks to the last victim, a new lead appeared. Perhaps now they and the Shining Dragon Squad will be able to catch the criminals a little faster. To his surprise, looking at the body of the deceased, one can come to some conclusions. Apparently, the enemy did not cover all his traces. He chose strangulation as a method of murder in order to hide his technique. Pale skin color indicates that a person has not seen the light for a long time. Most likely, about 4 hours have passed since his death. there is a high probability that the remaining hostages are alive. Then she asked Deha where the body was found. He replied that they were near residential buildings not far from the estate, about 15 meters away. Murip noted that it is more convenient to drag a dead person here than to bring him alive. In other words, the kidnapper's hideout is about a 4-hour drive from here. You stated that of the nearby mountain caves in which one can hide, there is only Profound Soul Hollow. Our hero replied that the enemy should have already learned about their arrival, or he relies not on numbers, but on skills. Starting today, they will begin searching all points in the ravine area. Suddenly, girls appeared and called out to the young man. He immediately said that they were on time, because he was just looking for them. When the woman asked who they were, the guy replied that they came from the 7th group of the Association to Help. Renva greeted Ms. Chon and said that they would do everything in their power to catch the criminals. Mugen's wife thanked them and told them to talk if they needed anything. Murip suggested that the three of us have a cup of tea, since he needed to explain the further plan of action. Chu immediately asked if maybe they could have a cup of tea, but Sojon sent him away for a long time. After some time, Deha said that Punyon and Chu Cho would search Samgan village, Chan Yu, Beihe village, Hangen, Banan village. In the meantime, he will run around the ravine. They will meet in 8 hours. The sun sets quickly in the mountains, so let them hurry up. When it began to get dark, the guy noted that the Huyen group was delayed, whether something had happened to them by accident. Suddenly, an ominous voice came from behind, asking if he was waiting for someone here. The young man noted to himself that he did not even feel his presence. Then he asked if he was the kidnapper of the head of the Chon clan. The stranger replied that we would allow it to be so. Why is the young man even here? Yu noted to himself that he was sure that he knew that Deha was from the demon forest, which is why he was asking specifically, when the others come running here, he will most likely kill them too. Therefore, the young man decided that it was better to sacrifice only himself, rather than have someone else die. After which he stated that he knew that he would appear. That's why he was waiting for him here. The guy is the vice commander of the Shining Dragon. And who is he? The man replied that he was afraid that if he said his name, he would have to finish him off immediately. Does he still want to hear it? Yu thought to himself that every master in their world has a special energy. If you fail to cope with it, then you can lose your head before you prove yourself. This is the difference between a criminal and a master. Then he said that he was too talkative. Is he really afraid of losing? The stranger began to say his name, but without finishing the sentence, he suddenly disappeared, after which he suddenly materialized behind the young man and added that, Akvishon. After some time, the commander of the 4th subgroup of the Shining Dragon, Hu Yen, noted that this was a scrap from the vice commander's uniform. It looks like someone attacked him. I noted to myself that the fabric was cut very carefully. The vice commander left them a signal. We can conclude that the situation was critical. Their group was only 15 minutes late. If Deha fell during this time, then they are certainly no match for such an opponent. It can be concluded that he was hinting that they needed to escape, after which he said that they were returning to the city immediately. Let them pass it on to everyone else, while he finds Pu Yen and Chu Cho. Let them be ready for a fight on the way back. The one who gets to the district first must immediately notify the lady that the vice commander has disappeared in the eastern part of the Deep Soul Hollow. A piece of clothing and traces of blood were found at the scene of the disappearance. Judging by the weapon traces left behind and the time of the battle, they are dealing with something like the 3 great evils. Let them tell you that they will need the help of the head of the demonic forest. Even the commander will most likely not be able to cope here. Our hero didn't know about this yet and said that if 2 people join the business, they will be managed in 2 days. The woman asked if he was offering to stage some kind of performance. The guy replied that it was exactly like that. The enemy invested a considerable amount of time in waiting for silver. How will a person feel if someone appears out of nowhere who wants to steal those same 3 million? And he is not talking about some serious enemy, but about a bunch of unknown crooks. The girl asked if there were any such people. The young man replied that, firstly, the city should not know about them. His squad doesn't count. And secondly, they must be proficient in the light step technique in order to escape with the hostages. The lady began to say that the idea was not bad, but where would they look for such people? When the young man added that he had actually already found the two of them, Renva exclaimed that he had gone crazy. Chin said that he saw her partner running before, coming to the tavern. Not bad at all. Moreover, if the Faceless Mountain King is really involved in the case, they have a chance to catch him first. Hearing this, the girl thought that such a chance could not be lost, so she replied that they had agreed and would take on the role of villains. Mugan's wife said that if at least they managed to save the prisoners, she would provide any help. Our hero said that they start tomorrow morning before dawn. The guy hopes that they will play their roles well. The beautiful flower thought to herself that the air was extremely ridiculous and pragmatic. He also eliminated the Great Blade in a similar way, or something. Suddenly, a subordinate burst into the room and reported that the vice commander had disappeared in the ravine. And that's not all. According to Chu Cho, clothing with skins disappeared from Besha village within a few days. Murip noted that this village is about 4 hours' drive from here. Good job. Now he can rest, and tomorrow they will move out. The guy was surprised. Wouldn't they be searching the village right now? Chin replied that he would search her. And what next? Even if Deha couldn't cope, he was going to get into trouble. The young man had no choice but to agree, since it was true. The only thing he objected to was that the vice commander was in danger. Our hero replied that they would need a prisoner from the demonic forest, so he would be fine. Meanwhile, Yu came to his senses and noted that the surroundings were dark and damp. It looked like he was in a cave. I didn't think that I would lose in 15 minutes. Well, at least he's alive. This is already making me happy. Suddenly, the voice of the head of the Chan clan, named Pilgun, was heard, who stated that he was clearly from the demonic forest. Now they will know each other. The guy apologized for not being able to greet him with dignity. Then he introduced himself. Hearing about the Shining Dragon, the old man noted that this was the first time he had heard about this squad. The young man explained that this detachment was created quite recently from the masters of the fallen Great Blade clan. The man was surprised that he had really been destroyed. Deha replied that, yes. Despite his defeat, many strong warriors arrived in the city, so there is no need to worry. The old man replied that he was grateful. But the situation was not simple. Judging by the fact that he was caught alive, he fought with Ak Vinchon. The young man replied that, yes, after all, the three great evils are not easy opponents. The head of the clan replied that it was true. Each of them is strong individually, but the problem is that this time they work together. After which they heard footsteps, so the old man immediately told the young man not to make a sound. Deha heard two voices discussing the fact that the Great Blade had fallen at the hands of the demonic forest, and wondered if they had really joined forces. One of them asked if he had not caught one of this clan today. Ak replied that yes, that mattress sat in ambush, waiting for his arrival. He lasted almost 15 minutes. It seems that the demonic forest is still holding the bar. Fighting them can turn into a chore. Another replied that if he calmly received money from the Chan family, then their plan would go off without a hitch. The next day, Zojun sort of took the only daughter of the head of the demonic forest hostage and screamed for her money to be given immediately. They know about 3 million, so let them give it quickly. Her mistress stated that she was doing well. Tan Reva and Yes Sojun's mission was to kidnap members of the Chan family. Except for Yen Chu and the commanders of the Shining Dragon subgroups, no one knows that this is just a game. One of the men shouted for them to release the hostages and surrender in an amicable way. But the girl objected to this bald head to shut her mouth. Then she added that they should come with the check at night to the eastern gate and should not try to play tricks. The enemies wanted to reach an agreement with the help of prisoners, so they would see who would beat whom. They have two of the Chon clan and 3 million silver in their hands. The guy carefully asked if the heir was sure that opponents would appear. Murip replied that they spent a lot of time on reconnaissance and abduction. Besides, 3 lemons is not small money. If he were in their place, he would give up the money he had been coveting for so long to someone else. They're not going anywhere. The young man noted to himself that it was disgusting and vile, but even he would have bought it. Chin ordered to keep an eye on the remaining subgroup commanders. They would wait until the rumors spread around, and then they would hit the road late in the evening. After some time, our hero handed Punyen the bag and asked him not to lose it. Let him think it's money. When asked what it was, the young man replied that the less you know, the better you sleep. The girls will figure out everything else. Deha was kidnapped, so he will lead the squad. The young man will go to Betcha for now and bring hostages while the fighting continues here. Pun countered that it was too dangerous to go it alone. Our hero noted to himself that the worst scenario would be if the enemies really turned out to be 3 great evils. The Shining Dragon will not be able to defeat those whose skills are equivalent to the 10 strongest warriors. But he answered out loud that there was no need to be afraid. There will be no enemies there. Let them remember that their main task is to return alive. After which the guys wished each other good luck and each went to complete their task. On the way, Yen thought that the commander was not one of those who would be satisfied with only a piece of Sichuan in his hands. They must prove themselves in this matter in order to continue to follow him. If their abilities are recognized in the Shining Dragon Squad, then they will be able to rise even higher. Then he shouted that they would soon arrive at the place. Everyone be ready for battle. Meanwhile, Vanshun stated that he had found this garbage. Are they really going to give his money to others? Surely one of them has money. Maybe just kill everyone and search them. But if the search turns up nothing, it will only cause more trouble. We need to find the right moment to make a deal. Some crave bloody money to accomplish a great deed. Others rush from side to side in the hope of achieving greater heights and try very hard for this. Still others are chasing a mysterious villain who is actually right in front of their noses. Just one day after the gathering of masters, each of whom pursues his own goal, there was a calm, foreshadowing a real storm. When asked if there were any followers on the path, the girl replied that, unfortunately, her abilities were not enough to understand this. Let her be patient a little longer. She understands how uncomfortable she is. The woman replied that for her, this was nothing at all. There is no need to worry, but calmly focus on the plan. Then the beautiful flower stroked the baby on the head and told her not to be afraid, because they would protect her, but she replied that she was not afraid. The girl is trembling only so that the enemy does not suspect something is wrong. Sojon thought to herself that she wonders what she will grow up to be. Suddenly, a voice called them vile vipers. They will never see life if they dared to kidnap the mistress. Tanreva countered that they were greatly mistaken if they thought there were only 2 hostages. When asked where the head of Chon is, the girl replied that they had to give them something first. The guy replied that until they are convinced that all the prisoners are alive, they will not see the money. Sojon put his foot to the woman's throat and said that he shouldn't have said that. Mugan's wife thought to herself that this was too much. The beautiful flower said that it looked like she would have to get rid of one person, otherwise things were not going well at all. Who will be first? The girl could not stand it and screamed that these stupid fools had simply given them this money. The little girl played so well that the young man no longer understood whether it was a performance or not. After which, he took out a bag and said that they should take their 3 million. When the girls told him to throw money towards them, the young man immediately threw it. At the same instant, an enemy appeared from the shadows, waiting for the decisive moment to successfully complete the deal. Without thinking twice, Reva threw the knife in his direction and exclaimed that everything was exactly as the heir had predicted. The blade passed clearly through the center of the bag, which tore open, and some kind of powder began to spread from it. Vincent realized that this was a potent poison. He never expected such a turn of events. The young man noted to himself that he knew that there was no money in the bag, but the situation was so absurd that he had no words. Then he shouted for everyone to listen carefully. Their opponent is a man in black clothes. He managed to neutralize the vice commander. Their main goal is to provide protection to all members of the Chan lineage. The enemy hissed that they would regret that they were still alive. The girl noted that there was powerful energy, imbued with the desire to kill, and the eyes were scarlet. Surah of the Bloody Sky Ak Vishon. It's a pity, of course, that it's not the faceless Mountain King, but now is not the time to think about it. It's time to move on to the final part of the plan. Meanwhile, our hero was thinking that they had probably already started. Perhaps there will be unexpected turns in the plan, but he thinks that everything will go well. The journey from the estate takes 4 hours, and there is a pale corpse that has not seen the sun for a long time. To build a dugout is somehow too stupid, which means that if there are remnants of the brain, they will hide underground. Their lair must be the darkest and gloomiest place in the area. Most likely, this is where the hostages are located. Whatever one may say, shady types always choose a cave as a refuge. When he went inside, someone immediately attacked him. The guy didn't understand whether there was anyone left here, or whether there were more than 2 enemies. Suddenly, a voice was heard, surprised that he had dodged, and asked who he was. The young man replied that he would not say that it was difficult to dodge. Stop talking to him through telepathy. Let him show himself. One of the 3 great evils, the phantom killer of the night, Cho Yan asked where he had seen a killer who would voluntarily show his face. Let him fail. He won't pursue him. He thought to himself that the broken soul was a perfect technique, with the help of which he even finished off the sword of the bloody sea, one of the 7 strong men of Murim, a secret weapon that he says is not hard to dodge, that he's throwing at all. The young man stated that the knife looked expensive. Will he let me use it, because he also has a knack for murder? The man noted to himself that his energy had disappeared, or that he simply could not feel it. Energy recognition is the foundation of killing techniques. I lost energy in the darkness, which means the end has come. At this moment, Cho Yan felt a sense of impending defeat. If he is not the master of death, there is no way he can defeat him. All other mercenaries are under his control. You just need to concentrate and feel the energy again. The man did not know what techniques the suddenly appeared young man possessed. But, as they say, even divine philosophy is ultimately used by man. You can't relax in this battle because one blow is enough for both to kill the enemy. A seasoned mercenary like Cho Yan understands this very well. We need to take it into our own hands. The guy won't feel his energy that easily either. This fight is being fought attrition, so you need to pull yourself together. It didn't take long for the phantom killer of the night to feel like he was going to lose for the 2nd time. At that very moment, when he closed his eyelids and opened them back, his right hand, lying on the ground, caught his eye. The man did not understand how he could get ahead of him, but it's too early to give up. Most likely, the young man was aiming not at the hand, but at the throat. You need to hide your energy and think about the next step. But suddenly, a young man materialized from behind, put a knife to his neck, and hissed that he was caught because of the smell of blood. The phantom killer of the night did not expect this so much that he simply started screaming, to which our hero told him to shut his mouth if he did not want to die. When he did not do what he was told, Marip began to press the blade on his other hand and said that now he would lose it too. Now the time has come to ask who he even is. The man replied that Cho Yan, also called the Phantom Killer of the Night. Our hero stated that it means he is one of the 3 great evils. The man shouted that he was simply not compatible with him. When asked where the abducted were, the enemy replied that further in the cave. They are intact. The guys just blocked their internal energy. He didn't plan everything alone. It was the Surah of the Bloody Sky. Chin said that he had not heard of the three great evils hanging around together and demanding money. Why did they even arrange all this? The man replied that the two of them had too many enemies. They wanted to leave their life on the run behind. The young man asked if the rabbit demon was involved in all this, but he replied that he had not even seen him. The guy realized that in this case, the guys had now met the Sura. Then this guy was probably doing the same thing, only in a different place. Then he pulled out the receipt from his bosom and asked where he dug up 3 million silver pieces. The man replied that the clan has a northern current. The young man noted that he had heard about this one. It would be a little cooler than the Chon family. After which he said that because of them they are now broke, so he will confiscate them. The Phantom Killer of the Night said that he understood everything. But could he ask one question? He would like to know who he lost to. Our hero replied that he is called a master with 3 arms and 6 legs. He knows that he has abused hundreds of girls. After which the young man added that he had already lived enough, doing various nasty things. Did he really have no conscience at all? Finally, our hero threw a knife in his direction and declared that everything happened honestly. There is a struggle between two energies inside him, the ultimate yin and the ultimate yang. But oddly enough, today these two are quieter than the grass, although usually, after using techniques, they are like hungry dogs. After the battle with Biyun, his condition improved significantly. Now you don't need to hold back so tightly. After which he went further into the cave and shouted the name of his subordinate, so that he would respond. Hearing his voice, Deha was confused, because this meant that he had neutralized one of the 3 opponents. He, of course, had ideas about the strength of the air, but who would have thought that he surpassed even the 3 great evils? Then he remembered the commander's words that he was one of the 10 best masters in the world, and it began to dawn on him that he wasn't joking then. When the indignant voice of our hero was heard again, he asked, "You died or something, why doesn't he answer?" Deha shouted that he was here. The people of the Chon family, who were nearby, lost a little weight, but turned out to be alive and well. They, who finally saw the light after all the suffering, heartily thanked the air. The old man said thank you very much, and that now they are in his debt. After which he asked whether they would go with them to the estate. Our hero replied that, unfortunately, no. Nothing is finished yet. The young man promises that the road will be safe, so let them go. Then he asked how Deha was feeling. He replied that the wounds were not serious, so he was ready for further instructions. Murip replied that this was great, then let him return to the detachment. Then he shouted to everyone else that they would meet at the estate after the guys finished. On the way, the guy asked who the villain who was guarding the cave turned out to be. The heir replied that he called himself the Phantom Killer of the Night. The young man thought that about 15 minutes passed between the departure of this guy and the arrival of the heir. In other words, Chin eliminated the enemy in such a short time without receiving any injuries. You never imagined that he would be so powerful. Among the fighters of their age, there is only one warrior who is capable of defeating the 3 great evils alone. This is the son of Tansoren, the strongest warrior in the world, a man who became one of the 7 lords of Murim at the age of 20. But still, no matter how strong the brave lord is, he cannot surpass their heir to the demonic forest. Our hero asked what kind of strange smile he had on his face, and whether he had hit his head somewhere. The guy laughed and replied that no way. Meanwhile, in the valley of the deep soul, the enemy attacked Chu over and over again, who steadfastly withstood it all. The girl noted that he had already received so many wounds. It was surprising that he was still holding on. However, it is not the warrior Yen who is in danger now, but Ak Vinchon. The poison he recently inhaled should already be starting to take effect. The opponent said that he has no idea who they both are, but recognizes their abilities. Just like the guy he fought with yesterday. A lot of them gathered in one place, but it is not called the Sura of the Bloody Sky for nothing. Even if poisoned, 80% of his strength will be enough for them. The guy thought to himself that no one would recognize the Silver Valley technique. He, of course, was forbidden to use it. But now, as they say, there is a state of emergency. His only concern is that these two girls who came from Kanama might recognize his technique. While he was thinking, an opponent appeared near him and asked what this fat man was thinking about. It's better to deal with him first. After which he began to attack the young man with his powerful energy, which was difficult to control. His next victim was supposed to be Sojon, who was standing nearby, but at the last moment the opponent turned around and headed in the other direction. The young man shouted that he was targeting the lady, so it was necessary to protect her, but it didn't take much effort for Sura of the Bloody Sky to deal with them with just one swing. After which the enemy grabbed the little girl from the woman's hands and began to quickly run away with her. The girl screamed how he could take a child hostage, what kind of creature he was. The enemy called them names and asked if they really thought that he was called one of the three great evils for fun. Let them catch up if they want to see the corpse of this little guy. In general, don't let them be upset, since he himself will definitely return to destroy them all. The beautiful flower thought that she should have at least placed her ward next to her mistress, although on the other hand, even she would not have been able to cope with him. The detachment commander immediately began shouting that it was necessary to form a pursuit group. The girl objected that it was not necessary, since she would go on her own. Sojon was indignant if she was joking, but she replied that if Akvishan noticed the pursuit group, the baby could die. Let her not worry, as the teacher's disguise technique will help her. This was one of her main talents, besides speed. She will leave signs along the way. Let them catch up in about half an hour. Under no circumstances should you rush. Otherwise, you will be caught by the enemy. The guy exclaimed that he could go crazy. Could the truth really go alone? The girl replied that the mistress ordered to follow her in 30 minutes. She will leave signs for them. The young man noted that, of course, he heard that her mistress was not one of the weakest, but somehow he still did not feel at ease. Even their defender could not defeat that creature. On the way, the enemy got angry and muttered that he would simply tear them to shreds after the poison was neutralized. Unexpectedly, Deha appeared on his way, which greatly surprised Sura of the Bloody Sky. When he said that this was somehow strange, was it really starting to glitch, you replied that this was reality. The guy considered him a worthy opponent until he saw that he had taken a child hostage. Taking out his sword, Ak said that it was enough to talk already. Apparently, the Phantom Killer of the Night was distracted. He guarantees that this time the young man will definitely die if he doesn't leave. Let him think quickly, because he is in a hurry. But suddenly the young man announced that his brave partner was no longer alive. The enemy was struck by this news, and it immediately dawned on him that all the prisoners were now free. Then he shouted that he deliberately let himself be caught, hiding his strength. Deha objected that he actually didn't say a word about the fact that he died at his hands. Suddenly, the little girl screamed that her uncle was a freeloader and was cooler than this bastard. Let him forget about her. The main thing is to slam him. The kidnapper was indignant that this brat really wanted to go to the next world. But she continued to scream for the uncle to blow his head off and put it on her grave. Sura of the Bloody Sky threw her aside and told her to close her mouth. He'll finish her off too, after he's dealt with everything else. After which he stated that he was offering him a choice, because the guy was wounded, and he had to go. I thought to myself that it was necessary to neutralize the poison as soon as possible, otherwise it would be screwed. You can't tell him about the poisoning. The young man grabbed his head and said that he had misunderstood him. It was not Deha who destroyed the Phantom Killer of the Night. Suddenly, the voice of our hero was heard, who said that it was the one who was now standing behind him. At the same instant, the opponent's hand was instantly cut off and fell to the ground. When Murup took the baby in his arms, he muttered that he understood that it was painful and sad, because he probably rocked for a long time. But why bother his relatives at all? Bloody Sky Sura thought that he didn't even feel his presence. which means it was he who killed Cho Yan. The young man turned to him and declared that he would get rid of him in the most terrible way that exists.